My parents kicked me out, so my brother could film shirtless TikToks in my room for his coaching business. I was paying their bills, so I cut them off. Now they're in meltdown, and the whole family is falling apart, piece by piece as I watch with my new family. Hey Reddit! My family kicked me out of my own room for my brother's fitness influencer dreams, so I cut them off completely and never looked back. Turns out they weren't ready for what came next. But before we get to that, let me start from the beginning. My name's Nolan. I'm 24. I work in marketing at a mid-sized firm downtown, and I'm tired in that way where even your bones feel heavy. I pulled into the driveway on a Thursday, 12 hours deep into back-to-back client presentations that went nowhere. The first thing I noticed was Brody's beat-up Honda parked where I usually park, my younger brother. Haven't seen him in 8 months, not since he dropped out of state school, and decided couch surfing with his dropout friends was a viable life plan. The second thing I noticed was the disassembled squat rack in his back seat. My gut dropped before I even opened the front door. Inside, the house smelled like reheated pasta and that specific kind of tension that comes right before someone drops bad news on you. Brody was on the couch eating my meal prep chicken straight from the Tupperware, scrolling through fitness Instagram like he owned the place. My mom Denise was in the kitchen wiping down counters that were already clean. My dad Alan hovered near the hallway, pretending to read something on his phone. Nobody looked at me when I walked in. Nolan, Mom said, not looking up. We need to talk about the living situation. I set my bag down slowly. Here we go. Brody's moving back home, she continued. He needs your room. My room? It's bigger, she said. Better lighting for his filming. And he needs space for his home gym equipment. Brody finally looked up from his phone. I'm starting an online personal training business, bro. Like, for real this time. I need a proper setup. This is my moment, you know. Where am I supposed to go? I asked. The guest room, Mom said, still wiping the same spot on the counter. The guest room is packed with Christmas decorations and old furniture. We'll move those to the garage. It'll be fine. It's half the size and faces the street. You're barely home anyway, Mom said. Always at that office. When does this need to happen? This weekend, she said. Sunday's good. 3 days. They were giving me 3 days. Brody finally looked up from his phone. Thanks for understanding, bro. This setup is going to be sick. I'm finally going to make this work. I stared at him. He had 127 followers on Instagram. His account was called at BrodyFit_transform. In the last 6 months, he'd posted 39 shirtless mirror selfies and maybe a dozen workout videos that got 15 likes each, mostly from people we went to high school with. He'd earned exactly $0. You're barely home anyway, Mom added. Always at that office. Plus, you don't need all that space for suits and a laptop, Brody said. I need room for my bench, squat rack, lighting, filming space, real equipment. I opened my mouth to argue, to point out that I actually live here, that I have a life, a workspace, things that matter. But Mom cut me off. Brody needs room for his equipment and content creation. He's building a business, a real business. Dad said nothing, didn't even look up from his phone, just stood there like a piece of furniture. What about the bills I pay? I asked. Mom didn't miss a beat. Obviously, you'll keep handling those. This is still your home. You're still part of this family. There it was. The thing that made my chest tight. For 2 years, I'd been paying $850 a month toward this house. Internet, utilities, groceries, streaming services, Mom's car insurance, things they'd asked me to help with that became permanent, things they stopped thanking me for after the first month. Brody needs to focus on building his brand right now, Mom continued. He can't be distracted by bills and responsibilities. Once his coaching business takes off, he'll contribute. I looked at Dad. He was still staring at his phone. Wouldn't meet my eyes. They weren't asking. They were telling. When do I need to be out? I asked quietly. Sunday's fine, Mom said. That gives you the weekend. Brody had already gone back to his phone, scrolling through fitness influencer accounts, probably imagining himself among them. I went upstairs to my room, the room I'd had since I was 9, posters from high school still on the walls, my desk where I'd done homework, written college applications, built the budget that kept this house running without them ever noticing. I sat on my bed and pulled up my bank statements. $867 last month, $891 the month before, $823 before that. I scrolled back. 2 years of payments, roughly $20,000. Downstairs, I could hear Brody doing loud push-ups, counting reps like he was filming. Then, Mom's voice. Nolan, can you grab protein powder on your way home from work tomorrow? Brody's almost out. Like nothing had just happened. I opened my laptop and searched for apartments. Then I opened a second tab and typed, "How to remove yourself from utility accounts." If they wanted me gone, I'd go completely. I found a studio apartment Friday morning during my lunch break. $1,100 a month, 35 minutes from work. Available immediately. Small but clean. The landlord didn't ask questions when I said I could sign today and move in tomorrow. I took a sick day. First one in 18 months. By noon, I was back at the house with boxes from U-Haul. Mom and Dad were at work. Brody was still asleep. I packed in silence. Clothes, books, laptop, the desk I'd bought myself sophomore year of college. Everything that was mine. 2 years of life folded into boxes and garbage bags. Brody wandered out around noon wearing compression shorts and a tank top, protein shaker in hand. He saw the boxes stacked by my door and stopped. "Yo, you taking all that?" "It's mine." "Yeah, but I was gonna use that bookshelf for my supplements and equipment." "Get yours," I said. "Damn, okay, chill, bro." He scrolled through his phone. "You got a link to where you bought it?" I didn't answer. Just carried another box down to my car. 3 trips. That's all it took to remove myself from this house. Mom got home around 3 p.m. She stood in the driveway watching me load the last box, arms crossed. "You're not seriously being dramatic about this, are you?" "I'm doing what you asked. I'm leaving." "We're not kicking you out. We're just reorganizing. This is what families do. We make space for each other." I closed the trunk. She followed me to the driver's side door. "So about the utilities transfer, I'll send you the account info. You've got 30 days before they shut off." Her face changed. "Wait, what do you mean shut off? The accounts are in my name. You'll need to open new ones." "That's ridiculous. Just keep paying them. We can Venmo you our share." I looked at her. Really looked at her. "You've never Venmo'd me your share. Because you live here. You benefit from these services. I won't live here as of right now. You're being incredibly selfish. Your father is going to hear about this." I got in my car. Brody was on the porch now, filming himself with his phone. "Hey bro, before you go, can you show me how to reset the Wi-Fi router? It keeps cutting out when I'm trying to upload videos." I backed out of the driveway without answering. Dad's car passed mine 2 blocks away. He was heading home. I watched him in my rearview mirror. He didn't slow down, didn't turn around, just kept driving toward the house like nothing was happening. He didn't even wave. The studio smelled like cigarettes and cheap air freshener. One room, a bathroom, a kitchen that was really just a counter with a hot plate. But it was mine. Just mine. I unloaded the boxes in silence and stacked them against the wall. Ordered pizza. Ate it sitting on the floor. Around 10 p.m., my phone started buzzing. 4 missed calls from Mom. I let them ring through. That night, I slept on an air mattress that leaked slowly. Woke up at 2 a.m. half deflated on the floor. Sunday morning, I spent 3 hours on my laptop, removing my name from everything. Electric company, account closure requested, effective October 30th. Internet provider, same. Water, gas, Hulu, Netflix, Spotify Family Plan, YouTube Premium, Amazon Prime. One by one, I filled out the forms. Uploaded proof of my new address, requested account closures. Then I typed up an email to my parents. Subject line, account information, action required by October 30th. I listed every service, the average monthly cost, the company phone numbers they'd need to call to set up new accounts. Attached a spreadsheet showing 24 months of payments, organized by category. No greeting, no explanation, no sign-off. I hit send. The rest of Sunday was quiet. I bought furniture from IKEA and Facebook Marketplace. A bed frame, a desk, a bookshelf, actual plates instead of paper. The apartment started feeling less like hiding and more like living. I checked my email once. The message to my parents showed read at 6:40 p.m. No response. Monday morning, I went back to work. Big presentation coming up. Major client. Potential promotion on the line. By Tuesday morning, I'd almost forgotten about them. Then my phone started buzzing during a meeting. 6 texts, 3 calls, all from Mom. I silenced it and kept my focus on the presentation deck in front of me. The last text preview lit up my screen. "The internet isn't working. Brody has a client consultation call in an hour. Call me now." I flipped my phone face down. Brody didn't have clients. After the meeting, I listened to the voicemails. Mom's voice, progressively more frantic across 6 messages. "The Wi-Fi isn't connecting. Did you forget to pay the bill? Nolan, this isn't funny. Brody can't film content without internet. He has a posting schedule. Your father tried calling them and they said the account is closed. What did you do? Brody missed a consultation call because of you. Do you know how unprofessional that makes him look? You are being incredibly immature. Call me back right now. Brody had texted too. Dude with no internet? I have sponsors reaching out and I can't even check my DMs. This is sabotage, bro. I deleted everything. Brody didn't have sponsors either. Wednesday afternoon, Aunt Linda called. Denise's sister. We talked maybe twice a year. Your mother is very upset. What's going on? I moved out. I closed accounts in my name. That's it. She said you abandoned them without warning and left them with no internet or power. I gave them 30 days notice and all the account information they needed. Brody is trying to start a business. Do you know how hard it is for young people right now? Do you know how much I paid in bills over the last 2 years? Silence on the other end. Family doesn't keep score, Nolan. $20,000. That's not keeping score. That's just math. More silence. If Brody wants to be a business owner, he should learn how to pay bills. She didn't call back. Thursday morning, my boss pulled me aside after the client presentation. We'd landed it. $340,000 annual contract. We're promoting you to senior account manager. 18% raise. Starts next month. First genuinely good news in 2 weeks. My salary jumped from $68,000 to $80,000. I celebrated alone that night in my studio apartment with an expensive drink I'd been saving. Toasted to myself in the empty room. To not being useful anymore. Friday evening, someone pounded on my door. I looked through the peephole. Dad. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. We talked in the hallway. He looked exhausted. Older than I remembered. You need to fix this. Fix what? The bills. The internet. All of it. Your mother is losing her mind. Brody's business is suffering. Then they can call the companies and set up new accounts. You know we can't afford all that without your help. I stared at him. Where were you when she kicked me out? She didn't kick you out. She just needed to reorganize. Where were you? He looked at his shoes. I tried to talk to her. She wouldn't listen. You didn't try hard enough. You didn't try at all. If you don't help us, things are going to get really difficult. You should have thought of that before giving my room away for a home gym. This is your family. No, that's your family. I'm just the guy who paid the bills so Brody could take shirtless selfies. He's trying to build something. He's 22 years old with 170 Instagram followers. That's not building something. That's screwing around. Dad flinched. Your mother thinks you owe us. I don't owe you anything. I already gave you 2 years and 20 grand. He left without another word. Walked down the hallway like a man who knew he was wrong but couldn't admit it. That night, I blocked Mom's number. Kept Dad unblocked for reasons I didn't fully understand yet. Blocked Brody. I checked Instagram one last time before deleting the app. Brody had posted a rant in his stories. Fake family is worse than no family. Some people will smile in your face then stab you in the back. I see you. Keep that same energy, 100% hashtag betrayed, hashtag fake family, hashtag staying focused, posted from my parents' house using their new data plan. They'd gotten internet again somehow. I screenshot it, saved it, then deleted Instagram entirely. Sunday night, sitting at my new desk, I realized I hadn't thought about them all day. Small victory. I opened my laptop to catch up on work emails. One caught my eye. Company newsletter featuring my recent client win. My name in bold. Senior Account Manager Nolan drives major Q4 win. First time my name had been associated with something I was proud of in months. Monday morning, I got a LinkedIn message. Harper Clark, project manager at a partner company. We'd met briefly at a conference 6 months ago. Good conversation. Smart. Direct. I'd thought about reaching out but never did. Hey, saw your promotion announcement. Congrats on the client win. Want to grab coffee and talk about potential collaboration between our teams? I stared at the message. First person to congratulate me, who wasn't paid to care. I typed back, coffee sounds great. How's Thursday? Her response came within minutes. Perfect. 10 a.m. at Riverside Coffee. See you there. I closed my laptop and looked around the studio. Small space. Quiet. Mine. My phone buzzed once. Unknown number. Probably Mom calling from someone else's phone. I let it ring through. Whatever they needed, whatever crisis Brody had created, whatever guilt trip Mom wanted to deploy, it wasn't my problem anymore. I was done being the fix-it guy. For the first time in 2 years, my life was my own. Thursday couldn't come fast enough. 6 months disappeared faster than I expected. Harper and I had been dating for 4 months. Coffee turned into lunch, lunch turned into dinner, dinner turned into weekends at her place or mine. She asked about my family once over Thai food in February. We don't talk. Do you want to talk about why? Not yet. She nodded and changed the subject. Never pushed. That's when I knew she was different. Work was good. I managed 3 major accounts now. The promotion came with real responsibility. Longer hours, but better money. No contact from my parents since Dad showed up at my door. Complete silence. But Uncle Rick reached out. Dad's younger brother. Always been the black sheep of the family. Never bought into Mom's nonsense. We met for coffee in March. Your dad won't tell me what happened, Rick said. But Denise is telling everyone at family events that you stole money and abandoned Brody when he needed support. I pulled out my phone and forwarded him something I'd prepared months ago. 28 pages. Every bill, every transfer, every receipt. 2 years of payments documented. He scrolled through it, face getting darker with each page. Jesus Christ, kid. I knew she was controlling, but this is financial abuse. We started meeting monthly after that. Sometimes his daughter Morgan joined us. She was my age, graphic designer. Had always hated how Denise treated me. I told my mom years ago that your family was weird, Morgan said one afternoon. The way they talked about you versus Brody. Like you were the help. Through them, I got updates on Brody. His fitness coaching career was dead. 183 followers, 0 clients. He'd tried selling training programs and running challenges. Nobody bought in. New plan, day trading crypto. Convinced Denise to give him $8,000. Lost it all in 6 weeks. Current plan, NFT fitness programs. Whatever the hell that meant. Still living at home. Still unemployed. Still posting shirtless selfies. Recent post, according to Morgan. They laugh at visionaries until the vision becomes reality. 11 likes. April hit like a freight train. Rick called me at work on a Tuesday. Voice serious. Your dad had a heart attack. He's at County General. Everything went cold. Is he okay? Stable. Minor one, but a warning. Stress-related, the doc said. But you should know. I hung up and sat in my car for 20 minutes. Harper texted, "Lunch?" My dad had a heart attack. Her response was immediate. "I'm coming to you." She showed up 15 minutes later with sandwiches. Sat with me in silence until I was ready to talk. "Do you want to go see him?" "I don't know." I went alone that evening. 8 p.m. Hoped Denise wouldn't be there. She was. Dad was in the bed, hooked to monitors, looking older than his 52 years. Denise saw me walk in. Her face cycled through shock, anger, relief, then entitlement. "Finally, you're here. We need to talk about—" "I'm not here for you." I walked past her to Dad's bed. He was awake, groggy from medication. Saw me and started crying immediately. "How are you feeling?" I'm sorry." "For what?" "All of it. I didn't." His voice cracked. Couldn't finish. Denise interrupted. "Nolan, your father needs rest. But since you're here, we need to discuss the medical bills. Insurance won't cover everything and—" I turned to her slowly. "Get out." "Excuse me. I came to see him. Not you. Get out or I leave." "How dare you!" I walked toward the door. "Denise, please." Alan's voice was weak but firm. She didn't leave. Instead, she launched into a tirade right there in the hospital room. She launched into the usual script. I'd abandoned them. I'd sabotaged Brody's business. I owed them for raising me. "Brody didn't have a business," I said. "He had an Instagram account and a bench press. We gave you everything. I gave you $20,000. We're even." A nurse entered. "Ma'am, you need to keep your voice down or I'll have to ask you to leave. This is my family. I'll speak however I—" I walked out. Dad watched me go. Tears running down his face. Said nothing. Didn't defend me. Didn't tell Mom to stop. Just laid there. I sat in my car in the parking lot, hands shaking. Texted Harper, "I shouldn't have come. Do you want me to come get you?" "No, I'm okay. I'll be home soon." "I love you." First time either of us said it. I stared at the text, vision blurring. Typed back, "I love you too." That night, Harper held me while I stared at the ceiling. He didn't say anything. She went off on me and he just laid there. I know. Why wasn't I enough? You were always enough. They just couldn't see it. Alan texted 3 days later from a new number. "Thank you for coming. I'm sorry about your mother. I'm sorry for everything." I didn't respond for a week. Then, "Focus on recovering. Can we talk sometime? Just us?" "I'm not ready." "I understand. I'll wait." 1 year after leaving, my life looked nothing like it had before. I'd been promoted again. Account director now. $87,000 salary, managing a team of 4. Moved to a better apartment in May. 1 bedroom with a balcony and an actual kitchen. Harper basically lived there. Her toothbrush in the bathroom, her clothes in half the closet, her coffee mug on the counter every morning. We'd been together 10 months. She'd met Rick and Morgan, my co-workers, my college friends. She hadn't met my parents. Didn't ask, didn't need to. We got engaged over Christmas. Simple proposal at her parents' place. No big production. Just me, Her and a ring I'd been saving for. She said yes before I even finished asking. We set the wedding date for June. Small ceremony. Close friends and family only. Harper posted a photo of the ring on Instagram a few days later. Simple caption, easiest yes of my life. I didn't have social media anymore. Hadn't for months. But I forgot that Rick followed Harper. He commented, "Congratulations to you both. Can't wait for the wedding." Then shared it to his Facebook. Dad saw it. He was friends with Rick. Next morning, I woke to a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Congratulations, son. I'm proud of you. She looks wonderful. I wish I could be there." I showed Harper over coffee. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know." I left it on red for 3 days. Kept rereading it. I wish I could be there. Like something was stopping him. Like he didn't have a choice. Day 4, my phone rang. Unknown area code. I answered thinking it was work-related. "Nolan, I heard you're getting married and you didn't even tell your own mother?" I hung up immediately. She called back 6 times from different numbers. I blocked them all. That evening, an email arrived. The email was exactly what I expected. She was my mother. She had a right to be involved. Harper deserved to meet her future mother-in-law properly. How could I exclude Brody? They were willing to move past this if I was. They wanted to help pay for the wedding. Harper looked at me. Is she serious? She thinks she can buy her way back in. What are you going to do? Nothing. I didn't respond to the email, but I drafted a text to Dad. Took me 2 days to finalize it. Rewrote it 11 times. Finally sent it. There's a seat for you at the wedding if you want it. Just you. Not Denise. Not Brody. Your choice. Wedding is June 21st. RSVP by May 15th. He read it at 11:44 p.m. Read receipt showed immediately. No response. Days passed, then weeks. Harper asked once in early April. Any word from your dad? No. I'm sorry. I'm not surprised. But I checked my phone more often than I should have. April 30th came and went. No response from Alan. June 7th. 1 week before the wedding. I was brushing my teeth before bed when my phone buzzed. Text from Dad. I can't come. Denise says if I go without her and Brody, she'll divorce me. I can't afford that right now. Not with the medical bills and everything else. I'm sorry, Nolan. I hope you understand. You deserve to be happy. I read it 3 times. Spit toothpaste in the sink. Showed Harper. I typed a response. I understand completely. You chose her over me again. This is the last time you'll get the chance. Don't contact me anymore. Hit send, blocked his number, deleted the entire text thread. Felt nothing but clarity. Wedding week moved fast. Work, venue, walkthrough, rehearsal dinner. Harper asked the night before. No regrets about them not being there? They were never really there anyway. Wedding morning, I was getting ready with my groomsmen when Rick pulled me aside in the hallway. Your dad called me last night, 2 a.m. He's a mess, crying. Wanted me to convince you to let him come. What did you tell him? I told him he made his choice and now he gets to live with it. Then I told him he's a coward and hung up. I nodded slowly. Thank you. But Nolan, I think he's finally seeing it. What she is, what he's let happen, what he's lost, it's destroying him. Good. You sure about that? He had 1,000 chances to choose me. He chose her every single time. He doesn't get to be destroyed now and expect my sympathy. Rick squeezed my shoulder. Fair enough. Let's get you married. The ceremony started at 4 p.m. 2 empty seats in the front row on the groom's side. I left them there on purpose. Wanted the absence visible. We honeymooned in Colorado. 5 days of hiking and small-town breweries. I barely looked at my phone. For 5 days, my past didn't exist. Thursday evening, we got back to the apartment. Mail piled up on the counter. Bills, wedding cards, junk. I checked my email while Harper unpacked. One from Morgan. You need to see this. Sorry to ruin the honeymoon glow. Brody got arrested. DUI. Hit a parked car. No one was hurt, but he's in serious trouble and Denise is having a full meltdown. Thought you should know, even if you don't care anymore. Call me if you want details. -M attachment. Screenshot of local news article. Harper read over my shoulder. Oh my God, is he okay? He's alive. He's stupid, but he's alive. Are you going to reach out or? No. I deleted the email. Ordered takeout. We watched a movie. I didn't think about Brody again. Monday, Rick called during lunch. Your dad's been calling me. Won't stop. Asking for your number. I told him I'd ask you first. Why does he want it now? Brody's bail is $15,000. Denise has been calling everyone in the family begging for money. I said no. Morgan said no. Even Aunt Linda said no. She's demanding Alan liquidate his retirement account to bail Brody out. And he said no. Long pause. He said no? Told her Brody needs to face real consequences for once. She threatened divorce. He didn't back down. Good for him. Doesn't change anything. Nolan, I think your dad's finally breaking. He asked if there were photos from the wedding. What did you tell him? That it was beautiful. That Harper looked gorgeous. That you looked happy. And that he missed it because he's a coward who chose wrong. He's not asking for my number to get money, is he? No. I think he just wants to talk. He sounded broken. I'm not ready to care about that yet. Fair. Just wanted you to know. 3 months passed. Through Rick, I heard the updates. Brody pleaded guilty. Lost his license for 2 years. 200 hours community service, 18 months probation, $7,500 in fines. Denise took out a personal loan at 19% interest to pay his fines. $12,000. But she didn't stop there. Bought him a used car for $8,500 because he needed reliable transportation for job hunting. Brody still had no job. Hadn't had one in 3 years. October. Alan came home from work to find a letter from the bank. Denise had taken out the $12,000 loan without telling him. Joint account, both their names. He also found the receipt for the car purchase. According to Rick, who heard from Diane, who heard from a neighbor, the fight was nuclear. Alan confronted her at the kitchen table. $12,000 in debt she'd hidden from him. Another car for Brody, who still had no job. The fight was nuclear. Denise defended Brody. He'd made a mistake. He needed support. He needed transportation. Alan finally snapped. Brody was 23 with no job, no license, and no future. Meanwhile, I had a degree, a career, a marriage. Nolan abandoned us, Denise screamed. No, we abandoned him. And I'm done pretending we didn't. Then get out. Alan packed a bag that night. Motel for a week, then a month-to-month rental. Filed for divorce 3 weeks later. Rick told me over coffee. Okay, I said. That's it? What do you want me to say? That I'm happy they're miserable? I'm not. I'm just numb to it. He's asking about you. A lot. Good for him. But I felt something. A small crack in the wall I'd built. Thanksgiving week. Harper and I hosted. Rick, Diane, Morgan, Harper's parents, work friends. 10 people crammed around a table meant for 6. Chaotic. Warm. Real. I was carving the turkey when my phone buzzed. Harper checked it. Unknown number. She read it aloud. It's from your dad. Using Rick's old phone. Says, "This is Alan. I know you blocked me. I just wanted to say I'm thankful you exist, even if you don't want me in your life anymore. I'm sorry for all of it. I'm in therapy now, trying to be better, even though it's too late. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. Dash. Dad." I set down the carving knife. You okay? Yeah, I'm good. I didn't respond. But I didn't delete it either. 6 months later, Harper was 12 weeks pregnant. We closed on a house in May. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, small yard, needed cosmetic work but solid bones. $340,000. Our names on the deed. Nobody else's. I'd been promoted to senior director of accounts. $105,000 salary. Leading a department. Life was objectively, undeniably good. I thought about Alan sometimes. Not often, but sometimes. The Thanksgiving text was still in my phone. Hadn't responded. Hadn't deleted it. Alan didn't text often from Rick's phone. Every few months, a message appeared. Saw your company got that healthcare contract. Congratulations. Happy birthday, Nolan. Rick mentioned you're buying a house. That's wonderful. Really proud of you. I never responded, but I read everyone. March. Rick told me over lunch the divorce was final. Alan got destroyed. Denise got the house, 60% of savings, her car. Alan was paying off half of Denise's loan for Brody. Joint debt. He's living in a 1-bedroom apartment, working overtime. Won't be financially recovered for 8 years. He's 53 years old. Is Brody still living with her? Where else would he go? He can't even get a job at Target. April. A letter arrived at our new house. Handwritten envelope. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Harper found it. There's a letter here. From your dad. I stared at it for 20 minutes before opening it. 3 pages. Alan's scratchy handwriting. He admitted everything. That he chose comfort over protecting me. That he enabled Brody and let Denise hurt me because he was too weak to stand up to her. That he's in therapy twice a week trying to fix himself even though it's too late. Rick had shown him wedding photos. He saw me happy without him. The letter ended. I'm alone now anyway, and I deserve it. If you ever want to talk, even just once, I'm here. I'm so sorry, Nolan, for all of it. I read it twice. Set it on the kitchen counter. Didn't throw it away. Didn't respond. Just left it there. That night, Harper asked, "What are you going to do?" I don't know. Do you want to see him? Part of me does. Part of me thinks it's way too late. It is too late. For what you needed then. But maybe it's not too late for something different now. Like what? I don't know. But you get to decide. Not him. Not me. You. 3 weeks later, I texted Rick. If my dad asks for my number again, you can give it to him. 2 days later, a text from a new number. It's Alan. Rick said you're okay with me having this. Thank you. That means more than you know. If you ever want to get coffee, I'm around. No pressure, no expectations. I waited 5 days. Then, Saturday, 10 a.m. Riverside Coffee on 5th Street. 1 hour. That's it. I'll be there. Thank you. I got there 15 minutes early. Corner table. Escape route visible. Alan walked in at 9:58 a.m. Older, thinner, grayer, tired. Saw me and froze for a second, then walked over slowly. Thanks for meeting me. Sit down. He sat. Awkward silence. I'm not going to waste your time with small talk. I know you don't owe me anything. You're right. I don't. Why didn't you stand up for me? Not once. Not ever. Long pause. He stared at his coffee. Because I was scared. Of what? Of her anger? Of conflict? Of being alone? Of having to admit I married someone I couldn't fix and stayed anyway. I know how pathetic that sounds. It is pathetic. I know. You chose that over your son. Over me. I did. And I'll regret it every day for the rest of my life. That doesn't change anything. I know. But I need you to hear it anyway. We sat for 90 minutes. He asked about Harper, the house, the baby. I gave short answers, still guarded. He told me about therapy, about what he was learning. I spent 30 years avoiding conflict. It cost me everything that mattered. Yeah, it did. At the end, I'm not ready to have you in my life yet. I understand, but I'm not saying never. I'm saying not yet. His eyes teared up. That's more than I deserve. Yeah, it is. I got up to leave, turned back. Don't make me regret this. I won't. We met every 6 to 8 weeks after that. Coffee, sometimes lunch. Alan never pushed, always showed up on time, respected every boundary. Month 6, I told him about the baby. December. Harper gave birth. Carter James, healthy. 2 days later, I texted Alan a photo. First photo I'd ever sent him. Just the baby. He's beautiful. Congratulations to you both. Thanks. 3 months later. Do you want to meet him? Are you sure? 1 hour. At our house. Harper will be there. Don't bring anything. Don't overstay. I'll be there. Alan showed up exactly on time with one thing. A children's book. Hardcover. Met Harper properly for the first time. I'm sorry I missed your wedding. I'm sorry I wasn't there when Nolan needed me. I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm grateful you're letting me be here now. Harper, direct as always. Yeah, me too. But you're here now, so don't miss it up. Alan almost laughed. Yes, ma'am. He held Carter for 8 minutes. Tears the whole time. Over the next year, Alan became a peripheral presence. Not close, but there. Visits every 2 to 3 months. Birthday cards for Carter. Never asked about Denise or Brody. One day I caught myself thinking, he's trying. Actually trying. That mattered. Not enough to erase the past, but enough to build something small in the present. 2 years after the wedding, the karma caught up. Denise lost the house. Couldn't afford the mortgage. Too much debt. Sold at a loss during a down market. Moved to a 2-bedroom apartment near the highway. Worked 2 part-time jobs at 56. Retail and gym reception. Brody still lived with her. 25 years old. No job, no license, no prospects. His Instagram was private now. At Brody Unfiltered. 193 followers. Denise posted Facebook rants about loyalty and family values. No one engaged. Aunt Linda unfriended her. Most of the family muted or blocked her. She told anyone who'd listen. My son won't even talk to me, and I don't know why. Rick finally told her at a family funeral. Yes, you do, Denise. You just won't admit it. She blocked him. August. A letter from Denise arrived at our house. 3 pages of half apologies and victim mentality. She didn't know what she'd done wrong. She'd sacrificed everything for Brody. Dad had abandoned them. She'd always loved me. Ended by asking me to help Brody find a job. Still asking for something. I threw it away immediately. 5 years after leaving, I was 29. Owned a house worth $390,000. Married 4 years. Son Carter was almost 3. Daughter due in 3 months. Alan was Grandpa Alan now. Visited once a month. They had dinner every 6 weeks. Not perfect. Still distance. But honest. Rick and Morgan were regulars at family dinners and birthdays. Denise still worked 2 jobs, barely making rent. Brody still lived with her at 27. Still the same loser he'd been at 22. Unemployed. Got fired from a warehouse temp job after 3 weeks. She posted on Facebook about being betrayed. talked about me at work. No one wanted to hear it anymore. Sunday afternoon, late summer. Carter's third birthday party in our backyard. 15 people. Batman theme, small bounce house. Alan was teaching Carter to kick a soccer ball. Wearing a world's okayest grandpa shirt Morgan got him as a joke. I closed my eyes and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. At dinner, my cousin said, "Can't wait for the New Year's trip." My parents froze. They planned a family vacation without my kids. I said nothing. Instead, I took my family to Dubai and posted the fireworks. My father's rage call the next morning exposed their lie to everyone. Hey Reddit, my parents always played favorites, so I stopped begging to be included, booked an epic New Year trip with my kids, and moved on. But they weren't done stirring up drama. Before we get to that, let me start from the beginning. Sunday dinner at my parents' place. Normal. Boring even. Rachel had made her famous apple pie. Dylan was showing Grandpa some Lego thing he'd built. Harper was helping Grandma set the table like she always does. Just another regular family gathering, you know? Then Cousin Leo walked in carrying a stack of identical navy blue duffel bags with embroidered snowflakes on them, and everything went sideways. "Hey, got the trip bags," Leo announced, dropping them on the kitchen counter. Big grin on his face. Custom embroidered and everything. "Aspen, here we come." I was refilling my coffee when he said it. Didn't really register at first. Rachel's hand stopped mid-reach for a serving spoon. Leo started pulling bags out, reading names off the tags. "Let's see. Dad, Mom, Garrett, Brooke, Austin, Paige." He flipped through the remaining tags, checking each one. Then looked up, genuinely confused. "Wait, where are Nolan's family bags?" The kitchen went quiet. Mom's face went pale. Dad suddenly found his phone very interesting. "What Aspen trip?" I asked. Kept my voice level. Leo's face shifted from confusion to dawning horror. The New Year trip? To the ski chalet? I thought." He trailed off. Finally read the room. Mom tried to salvage it. "Nolan, honey, we were going to tell you." "Tell me what?" I set my coffee down. "That you're taking a family trip and didn't invite us?" "It's not like that," Dad said. Wouldn't even look at me. "The chalet package has a strict 8-person maximum. We couldn't—" "8-person maximum," I interrupted. "You, Mom, Garrett, Brooke, Austin, and Paige. That's 6 people. Plus us makes 10 total." I pulled out my phone, Googled the resort right there, pulled up their booking page. "They have 8-person and 10-person packages. You chose 8. Harper walked into the kitchen right then. Saw the pile of bags. "Are those for a trip?" Mom knelt down fast. "Oh, sweetie, those are for a work thing." I watched my mother lie directly to my 7-year-old daughter's face. "Just to be clear," I said, and my voice was calm enough that Rachel glanced at me sharply. "Are my kids invited to this Aspen trip? Yes or no?" Dad finally met my eyes. "Nolan, the package is expensive and restrictive. We had to make difficult choices. Yes or no?" "No," Garrett said flatly. Walked into the kitchen like he owned the place. "No, your kids aren't invited." There. Happy now? Dylan had walked in behind Harper. He was 10, old enough to do math, old enough to understand what he was hearing. "Why not?" Dylan asked quietly. No one answered him. "The package maxes at 8, Dad tried again. "We couldn't—" "You're lying," Dylan said. I'd never heard that tone from him before. Flat, factual. "There are 6 of you going. 6 plus us makes 10. The website shows 10-person packages. You didn't budget space. You budgeted us out." The words hit like a brick. My 10-year-old son had just summarized the entire situation in 2 sentences. Rachel's hand found mine under the table. "Dylan, it's complicated," Mom started. "No, it's not," he said. "You picked them over us." Harper started crying. Not loud, just quiet tears running down her face. She didn't even understand fully what was happening, just that something was wrong. I stood up. "Rachel, get the kids. We're leaving." "Nolan, don't be dramatic," Dad said. "I'm not being dramatic. I'm removing my children from a situation where they just learned their grandparents ranked them second." "That's not fair," Garrett said. I turned to look at him, really look at him. "You're right. It's not fair." To them. Rachel was already gathering Harper and Dylan, grabbing their coats. "If you walk out that door, Nolan," Dad started. "You'll what? Not invite us to the next trip either?" I picked up Rachel's pie from the counter. "We'll keep this. You enjoy your 8-person exclusive experience." Leo, still standing there looking horrified, said weakly, "I'm so sorry, man. I thought you knew." "Not your fault, Leo." We left. In the car, Harper cried in the back seat while Dylan stared out the window. Silent. Rachel drove. I sat in the passenger seat, utterly calm. watching the city lights blur past. My phone started buzzing before we were even out of the driveway. I turned it off completely. Rachel glanced at me. You okay? Yeah. Really? They didn't forget us, Rach. They planned around us. And I'm not going to beg to be included in my own family. She reached over, squeezed my hand. From the back seat, Dylan's voice came quiet. Dad? Yeah, bud. I don't want to go to Sunday dinners anymore. I looked at Rachel. She nodded once. Okay, I told him. We don't have to. Harper sniffled. Ever? Not unless they understand what they did wrong. The rest of the drive was silent. But it wasn't the bad kind. It was the kind of silence where everyone in the car understood we'd just crossed a line we couldn't uncross. And I was completely fine with that. Monday morning at work, I couldn't focus. I'm a civil engineer, spend my days inspecting bridges and writing structural reports. Usually I can lose myself in stress calculations and safety margins. Not today. I kept seeing Harper's face when she realized she wasn't invited. Kept hearing Dylan's voice. You budgeted us out. Around 10 in the morning, I opened a new Excel spreadsheet, started typing dates and incidents. I'd been screenshotting these moments for months, storing them in my phone whenever something felt off. Now I was finally organizing them. By lunch, I had the pattern clear. Dylan's 10th birthday party, June 15th. Dad said he had a critical work meeting. Found out later he drove 3 hours to Austin's travel baseball tournament instead. Harper's dance recital, March 2024. Both grandparents were out of town. Found photos of them at Austin's science fair the same day. Christmas gifts 2023. Austin and Paige got personalized gaming laptops, $800 each. Dylan and Harper got $30 Amazon gift cards with a generic from Grandma and Grandpa note. The pattern wasn't subtle. I pulled up Garrett's Instagram, scrolled back through the last 6 months. October 22nd, photo of him at a high-end steakhouse, celebrating new opportunities. November 3rd, his Mercedes in front of a country club. Sunday golf therapy. November 19th, premium seats at a basketball game. Living the dream. December 4th, weekend at a luxury spa resort. Decompressing from the grind. Meanwhile, the family narrative was that Garrett was struggling financially after his career transition from pharmaceutical sales, that he needed help, that this Aspen trip was Dad's way of supporting him through a tough time. But the Instagram receipts told a different story. I screenshot everything, saved it to a folder titled Family Dynamics 2023 to 2024. My phone had been off since Sunday night. I turned it back on during my lunch break. 17 missed calls, 29 text messages. I scrolled through them. Nolan, please call me. We can explain. The kids don't understand. You're making this harder than it needs to be. We need to talk about your behavior yesterday. Nothing about their behavior. Nothing acknowledging what Dylan said. Nothing about Harper crying. I replied to exactly one message. Moms. The kids understand perfectly. That's the problem. Then I opened a new text thread. Added Rachel. We need to talk about New Year plans. What if we did something just us? Big, memorable, something that shows Dylan and Harper they're worth it. Rachel responded in under a minute. I'm listening. That night, after the kids went to bed, Rachel and I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open. Walk me through this, she said. Dad's spending $12,000 on Garrett's family for Aspen. Luxury ski chalet, 5 days, all inclusive. He positioned it as helping Garrett through tough times. But Garrett's not struggling. Not even close. I pulled up the Instagram screenshots. Country club memberships, premium sports tickets, spa weekends, high-end dinners. Rachel studied the photos. So where's the money coming from? I opened my banking app, showed her my transaction history. Then I pulled up something else. A text thread with Leo from 6 months ago. Leo had mentioned casually that Dad had co-signed on Garrett's Mercedes lease. That Mom was covering Brooke's gym membership because Brooke needed self-care support. They're funding his entire lifestyle, Rachel said slowly, while telling us he's struggling and needs the trip as support. And your kids got excluded because Garrett's kids are the priority. Always have been. Rachel closed the laptop, looked at me directly. What do you want to do? I want to show Dylan and Harper they matter. I want them to have an experience so incredible they never question their worth again. And I want to do it without asking permission or waiting for an invitation. Dubai? I'd been researching since lunchtime. Had 3 browser tabs open on my phone with packages, pricing, reviews. Burj Al Arab, 5 nights. I booked the suite starting the night of December 30th so we could check in immediately when we landed. December 30th through January 4th. 2-bedroom suite, butler service, desert safari, ski Dubai. New Year's Eve at Burj Khalifa. Cost? $14,500 for the hotel package. Flights are separate, but I'm using points for those. Rachel absorbed that. More than Aspen. Exactly the point. Your parents are going to lose their minds. They're already calling my behavior ridiculous. Might as well earn it. She smiled. Actually smiled. Our savings can handle it? We have 68,000 saved. We make 185,000 combined annually. We're stable. We've been responsible for years, and we weren't invited. Rachel pulled the laptop back, started reading through the Dubai package details. Harper would lose her mind over Ski Dubai, she said. Indoor skiing with penguins. Dylan would love Burj Khalifa observation deck. We looked at each other. Book it, Rachel said. I moved the cursor to reserve now. Hovered there for 1 second. My phone buzzed. Text from Dad. Nolan, we're finalizing Aspen details this week. We'd appreciate it if you didn't make this difficult by holding a grudge. The kids will get over it. I read it out loud to Rachel. She leaned over and clicked the button herself. Confirmation received. Your extraordinary Dubai experience awaits. I screenshot it, saved it to the evidence folder. The next 2 weeks were the quietest I'd ever experienced with my parents. I didn't call them, didn't answer their calls, didn't engage with the family group chat that kept lighting up with Aspen planning messages. Nobody even thought to remove me from it. Garrett. Found the perfect ski instructor for the kids. Can't wait. Mom. Booked dinner reservations at that mountaintop restaurant. All confirmed. Brooke. Austin is watching ski videos nonstop. This is going to be magical. Dad. T-minus 16 days. Family trip of a lifetime. I read every single one. Didn't respond to any of them. Rachel kept asking if I was okay. I kept saying yes. And I genuinely was. Because while they were planning their 8-person exclusive experience, I was planning something better. I'd confirmed Burj Al Arab reservation, booked Emirates business class flights, arranged the desert safari and Ski Dubai tickets, reserved the New Year's Eve gala. This was about 2 things, showing my kids they were worth the effort and making sure my parents saw exactly what they'd walked away from. On December 16th, Leo called me. Dude, your parents are freaking out. Not my problem. They think you're planning something. Correct. Are you going to tell me what? Nope. Leo laughed. Fair enough. For what it's worth, I still feel terrible about the bag thing. Still not your fault. You thought I knew because you assumed my parents would include their own grandchildren in a family trip. That's called normal human decency. Your dad's saying you're being unreasonable. He's right. I'm being completely unreasonable by not begging to be included. December 18th, Mom sent me a private text. Nolan, honey, could you check on our house while we're gone? We leave the 28th, back the 2nd. Key under the flower pot. Would really appreciate it. I stared at that message for a full minute. She assumed I'd be home, assumed I had no plans, assumed I'd be available to house sit while they vacationed with Garrett's family. I typed back 1 word. Noted. Nothing else. Then I opened a new text to our neighbor Karen. Can you check on my parents' house twice while they're gone? December 28th to January 2nd. I'll pay you. She responded in 30 seconds. Of course. No charge. Happy to help. Rachel saw me do it. That's ice cold. That's appropriate. On December 22nd, we told the kids. Dylan and Harper were in the living room when Rachel and I sat down with them. We have news, I said. A surprise for New Year. Harper's eyes lit up immediately. Are we going somewhere? Yes. Somewhere incredible. Where? Dylan asked. More cautious. Dubai. Blank stares. Rachel pulled up photos. Burj Khalifa appeared first. This impossible tower of glass rising into the sky. Dylan's eyes went huge. That's the tallest building in the world. We're going there, I said. To the top. Harper grabbed the phone, swiping to the next photo. Ski Dubai, indoor skiing, and penguins. Penguins! Harper shrieked. Can we go see them? That's literally on the schedule. Dylan's face shifted. Something between disbelief and hope. When? We leave December 30th. 5 days. Just us 4. Can we tell Grandma and Grandpa? Harper asked automatically. The question hung in the air. Rachel handled it. Not yet, sweetie. This is our family's adventure, just ours. Dylan got it immediately. I saw it in his eyes. So we don't wait for them anymore. No, bud, we don't. Over the next week, we shopped. Usually, we were budget conscious. Not this time. When Harper wanted a specific sundress, Rachel told her to pick 2 colors. When Dylan asked about a camera to document the trip, I found a refurbished GoPro on sale and bought it. At checkout, the total came to $340. I didn't even blink. The sales clerk asked where we were headed. Dubai, Dylan announced. Burj Al Arab? Yeah, that's incredible. You're going to love it. Christmas Day arrived. Usually we'd spend it at my parents' house. This year we stayed home. Rachel made pancakes. Dylan and Harper opened gifts. My phone stayed face down on the counter. Around 11 in the morning it started buzzing. I ignored it. That evening I finally checked. 23 missed calls, 41 text messages. Mom, Merry Christmas. When are you coming over? Dad, this is childish. Your mother is upset. Mom, I don't understand what we did wrong. The family group chat had photos of Austin and Paige opening presents. Dad in his Santa hat, Mom with matching Aspen Trip sweatshirts for everyone. 6 sweatshirts laid out on the table, one for each person going. I screenshot the photo. December 27th, Mom tried calling Rachel directly. Rachel answered on speaker. Rachel, honey, is Nolan okay? He's fine. Can you talk to him? Help him understand we didn't mean to hurt anyone? Rachel's voice stayed perfectly even. I'm not going to mediate this. You excluded our children from a family trip. Nolan's responding accordingly. That's between you and him. But the kids don't understand. Our kids understand perfectly. That's actually the problem. She hung up. Mom called back immediately. Rachel declined it. Brutal, I said. Necessary, Rachel corrected. December 28th, my parents left for Aspen. The family group chat exploded with departure photos. The caption, "Family adventure begins." I read it. Felt nothing. Turned my phone to airplane mode. 4:30 in the morning, December 30th. The alarm went off. Logan International at 5:45 in the morning had that strange, quiet energy of people going places. The Emirates check-in counter processed our passports smoothly. Dubai for New Year. Beautiful choice. Business class confirmed. The boarding passes had gold Emirates logos. Harper got an amenity kit with a stuffed camel. She named him Sandy. By 6:30 in the morning, we were in the Emirates lounge. Dylan and Harper at the kids' play area. Me standing by the windows watching the A380 being prepped. I pulled out my phone, took a photo of Dylan and Harper silhouetted against the window, the massive plane behind them, sunrise painting the sky. Caption, "New adventures, teaching the kids that family means choosing each other first. Set privacy to public." Hit post. Then immediately airplane mode. Rachel walked up. No looking at reactions? Not until we land. The flight was everything promised. Business class pods that converted to beds, flight attendants who gave the kids pajamas and slippers. Dylan discovered his seat had a 24-inch entertainment screen, declared it the best plane ever. Around hour 8, I turned off airplane mode, connected to Wi-Fi. The notifications flooded in. 74 text messages, 38 missed calls. Mom, Nolan, where are you going? Dad, call me immediately. Dad, we need to talk right now. But also other messages. Leo, dude, Dubai? Your parents are freaking out, but honestly, good for you. Aunt Carol, saw your post. That hotel looks amazing. Don't let them guilt you. I showed Rachel. She shook her head. They really thought you'd just stay home. They assumed. I let them keep assuming. After 14 hours, the plane descended through darkness toward Dubai. We landed early morning December 31st, local time. The city appeared below us like a circuit board come to life. Burj Khalifa visible even from the air. This impossible needle of light. Harper pressed against her window as we descended. It looks like a spaceship city. A driver in a white shirt held a sign with our name and Burj Al Arab logo. The drive took 35 minutes along Sheikh Zayed Road. 8 lanes of highway lined with towers wrapped in lights and LED screens. Then we turned onto a causeway extending into the Persian Gulf. And there it was. Burj Al Arab. That distinctive sail shape rising from an artificial island. Gold and purple lights against the night sky. Harper pressed her face against the window. Is that really our hotel? The most luxurious hotel in the world, sir, the driver said with an Indian accent. Dylan was filming everything. This is insane. A man in traditional white kandura greeted us with a bow. Introduced himself as Khalid, our personal butler. Dylan's face. We get a butler? Of course, sir, Khalid said, treating my 10-year-old like royalty. The lobby was gold leaf and marble, a fountain reaching up 3 stories. The elevator opened directly into our suite. No hallway, just ours. 2,100 square feet. Floor-to-ceiling windows showing the Gulf stretching to the horizon. The kids' room had custom bunk beds and a PlayStation 5. The master bedroom had a balcony. The bathroom was larger than most hotel rooms. Harper stopped spinning. This is ours? This is your suite, Khalid corrected gently. Dylan ran to the windows. I can see Burj Khalifa from here. Worth every dollar. The next morning, breakfast at Al Muntaha, 200 meters above sea level. When the elevator doors opened, the view hit us. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 3 sides showing the Palm Jumeirah below, the coastline stretching north. Dylan stopped walking, just stared. The host led us to a window table, white linens, gold-rimmed plates, crystal glasses. Harper climbed into her chair and pressed her face against the window. We're so high up! The server brought menus. Rachel ordered shakshuka. I got the traditional Arabic breakfast. Dylan wanted pancakes. Harper asked if they had French toast. Of course, the server said. With our signature gold dusting? Harper's eyes went wide. Gold? 24-karat gold flakes. Edible. When it arrived, Harper just stared at her plate, the French toast dusted with flakes that caught the light like glitter. Dylan poked his pancakes. Is this actually real? 24 karat, the server confirmed. Harper giggled. I'm eating gold. I took a photo. Dylan and Harper with their golden breakfast. The city sprawling below. Posted it. Breakfast in the clouds. Dylan took a bite, grinned. Okay, gold makes everything taste better. Rachel was watching our kids. They'll remember this forever. Not just the gold, but the feeling of being chosen. She was right. That afternoon, ski Dubai. The transition was surreal. We walked from warm desert air into climate-controlled Arctic conditions through a series of airlocks. Then the doors opened and we were standing in winter. A real ski slope. 5 runs. Real snow falling from the ceiling. Our breath misted in the cold air. Harper stood there in her borrowed winter coat, watching snow drift down. It's snowing. Inside. In the desert. Dylan was already filming. This defies like 3 laws of physics. But the real magic was the penguin enclosure, a specially designed habitat kept at perfect Antarctic temperature. We stood at the viewing glass. Within seconds, a king penguin waddled up to investigate. It tilted its head, studying Harper through the glass. Harper knelt down slowly, putting her hand against the barrier. The penguin waddled closer, tilting its head the other way. Hi, Harper whispered. I'm Harper. The penguin made a sound, somewhere between a honk and a chirp. I think he likes you, Rachel said. She, one of the handlers corrected. That's Layla. She's curious about new visitors. Harper pressed her face closer to the glass. Layla pressed her beak against it from the other side. Can I meet them properly? Harper asked. 10 minutes later, Harper was inside the enclosure in a specialized cold weather suit, kneeling in real snow while Layla and 2 other penguins investigated her. Her face was pure wonder. She kept looking at me through the glass like she couldn't believe this was real. Dylan did the skiing, strapped on skis for the first time. The instructor praised his natural balance. He made it down the bunny slope without falling, arms raised in victory at the bottom. I got photos of both moments. Harper with her penguins, Dylan with his arms up. Simple posts. Meeting new friends, and first time on skis. Nailed it. New Year's Eve arrived. By 6 in the evening, we were dressed up. Harper in a gold dress, Dylan in a suit, Rachel in an evening gown, me in a tuxedo. Family photo in the suite. Burj Khalifa visible through the window behind us. I spent 10 minutes on this caption. This was the one that mattered. What this year taught me, family isn't blood. It's who shows up, who makes you a priority, not an afterthought. To Dylan and Harper, you are valued, you are loved, you are enough. Hit post. 2 hours later, at a high lounge with panoramic views, Burj Khalifa lit up across the water, dominating the skyline. Countdown clocks mounted on every wall. Harper had sparkling cider in a champagne flute, holding it like treasure. Dylan kept checking his watch, doing math about time zones. Rachel and I had actual champagne. They're going to remember this forever, she said quietly. That's the point. Rachel asked if I was going to check my phone. Tomorrow. The countdown started. 10. Dylan grabbed Harper's hand. 9. The room getting louder. 8. 7. 6. Harper's voice rising above the crowd. Pure excitement. 5. 4. 3. Rachel squeezed my hand. 2. Me looking at my family. All of them smiling. Happy. Chosen first. 1. Happy New Year! The words burst from hundreds of throats. Burj Khalifa erupted in light. Fireworks cascaded down its sides in choreographed patterns. Gold and silver explosions painting the sky. Harper jumped up and down, pointing. Look at the colors! Dylan had his GoPro out, filming everything. Rachel kissed me. Best decision we ever made. Second best, I said. First was choosing us. The fireworks continued for 20 minutes. And through it all, I didn't check my phone once. The next morning in Dubai, around 9 local time, my phone rang. Dad's number. I'd been expecting this. Let it ring twice before answering. Put it on speaker so Rachel could hear. Hello? Nolan. Dad's voice was tight. Controlled fury. What the hell are you doing in Dubai? Vacation. You were supposed to be watching our house. I arranged for our neighbor to handle it. Silence on the other end. Then, you deliberately went on vacation while we were trying to have a family trip. You went on a family trip. I went on a different family trip. That's not what I... He stopped. Started again. How could you do this? How could you exclude us like this? There it was. The line I'd been waiting for. I let the silence stretch for 3 full seconds. I didn't exclude you, Dad. I just didn't include you. There's a difference. That's the same thing. Is it? Because that's the exact logic you used for Aspen. You're taking 6 people on a trip when we're a family of 10. You didn't exclude us, right? You just didn't include us. That was different. How? The package had limitations. The resort offers 8 and 10-person packages. You chose 8. That wasn't a limitation. That was a choice. I heard him breathing on the other end, trying to find an angle. Your mother is devastated, he tried. She's been crying since Sunday dinner. Since you walked out. Harper cried when she found out she wasn't invited. Did that devastate you? That's not fair. You're right. It's not fair. To her. Where are you staying? He asked finally. Burj Al Arab. I heard him actually choke. That's the most expensive hotel in the world. We're teaching the kids they're worth it. This is insane. You're spending a fortune to prove a point. To prove my kids matter. Different thing. Nolan, we need to talk about this when you get back. We can talk when you're ready to acknowledge what you did. Until then, we're good. I hung up. Rachel stared at me. You just hung up on your father. Yeah. That was the coldest thing I've ever heard you say. Good. My phone immediately started ringing again. I declined the call, turned on Do Not Disturb. He's going to lose his mind, Rachel said. Already has. Not my problem. We spent the rest of the day at the beach. Dylan building sandcastles, Harper collecting shells, Rachel reading, me watching my kids be happy. My phone stayed silent. We landed back in Boston on January 4th, 2 in the afternoon local time. By 4:30 in the afternoon, we were home. Our neighbor Karen had left a note saying she'd watered the plants. My phone showed 89 new text messages and 62 missed calls. The messages from my parents had evolved from angry to desperate to furious again. Mom, January 1st. How could you do this to us? Dad, January 2nd. You've embarrassed this family. Garrett, January 2nd. Thanks for ruining our trip. Mom, January 3rd. Everyone is asking questions. Do you have any idea what you've done? But there were also other messages. Aunt Carol, your photos are amazing. The kids look so happy. Uncle Rob, that hotel is on my bucket list. Well done, man. Cousin Jennifer. About time someone called them out on the favoritism. Even Leo had sent updates. Your parents are melting down, but also, half the extended family is on your side now. January 5th, 9 in the morning. My parents showed up unannounced. We dropped Dylan and Harper at Rachel's mom's house an hour earlier. We knew this was coming. I opened the door before they could knock. Mom's eyes were red. Dad's face was stone. Can we come in? I stepped aside. We sat in the living room, them on the couch, Rachel and me in chairs facing them. Dubai souvenirs visible on the side table. Dad spoke first. I think you owe us an explanation. You think I owe you an explanation? You took your family to Dubai while we were trying to have a nice trip. With your other grandchildren, I finished. The ones you actually invited. Mom's voice cracked. Nolan, it wasn't like that. What was it like? You booked an 8-person chalet for a 10-person family and chose which 4 people to exclude. The package had restrictions, Dad said. That same shit again? Rachel pulled out a thin folder, just 3 pages, the strongest receipts. She slid it across the coffee table. What's this? Mom asked. Dylan's birthday. You were at Austin's tournament. Harper's recital. You were at Austin's science fair. Christmas gifts. 800 for Austin and Paige. 30 for Dylan and Harper. Dad didn't touch the folder. This is ridiculous. Harper asked me why Grandma doesn't love her like you love Paige. She's 7. What do I tell her? The silence was crushing. We didn't mean, Mom started. You meant every bit of it. You chose. The Aspen trip was just the first time you made that choice visible to my kids. The front door opened then. Garrett and Brooke walked in. Rachel stood immediately. Who gave you a key to our house? We're family, Garrett said. Get out, Rachel said, her voice like ice. Rachel? Mom started. No, you don't get to show up unannounced, and you definitely don't get to bring him. Dad tried to take control. Nolan, delete those Instagram posts, apologize to your mother, and we can move past this. Rachel stood before I could respond. Her voice cut like ice. You don't get to police his response when you won't own your action. Dad turned to her. Rachel, no. You excluded our children. You lied about why. You made Dylan and Harper feel worthless. And now you want Nolan to apologize for documenting what you did. I'm not deleting anything, I said. I'm not apologizing. And we're not moving past this until you acknowledge what you did. We didn't do anything, Garrett said. Dylan's voice came from behind us. I understand you didn't want us there. That's pretty clear? We all turned. Dylan and Harper were standing in the doorway. Rachel's mom must have brought them back early. Dylan, sweetie, you don't understand. Mom knelt down. I understand you didn't want us there, Dylan said quietly. That's pretty clear. So Dad took us to Dubai, Dylan continued, and we went skiing with penguins, and we saw the tallest building, and it was the best trip ever. He held up his photo album. Want to see? Brooke spoke up. This is exactly the problem. You're teaching them to be entitled. Get the fuck out of my house right now. If we leave, we're not coming back, Dad said. You'll need to apologize first. I walked to the door, opened it. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm asking you to leave. Mom was sobbing. You can't mean this. I mean every word. You excluded my children. You lied about it. And now you're demanding I apologize for responding to your choices with choices of my own. This is insane, Garrett said. This is boundaries, Rachel corrected. They left slowly, Mom crying, Dad silent, Garrett and Brooke muttering. When the door closed, Dylan asked quietly, Are we in trouble? I knelt down, pulled them both into a hug. No, you're not in trouble for speaking the truth. Are we going to see them again? Maybe, if they understand what they did. If they're willing to treat you the same as Austin and Paige. What if they don't? Then we keep building our own traditions, just us four. Harper sniffled. I liked our traditions better anyway. Rachel looked at me. Change the locks today. I nodded. Already planning on it. 3 months of silence followed. No calls, no texts, no Sunday dinners, just peace. Dylan and Harper adjusted fast. Harper stopped asking about Grandma. Dylan started planning our next trip. Mid-March, Leo called me. Heads up, your parents are planning something. What kind of something? Family intervention. They've been calling relatives, building a case, saying you're being unreasonable, that you've turned the kids against them. Have they acknowledged excluding us yet? Nope. Then whatever they're planning, I don't care. It's next Sunday. Your parents' house. They're calling it family reconciliation. I wasn't invited. You're the guest of honor. Surprise. Sunday arrived. We left Dylan and Harper with Rachel's mom. Rachel and I drove to my parents' house. Arrived exactly on time. The driveway was packed. Aunt Carol's car, Uncle Rob's truck, Cousin Jennifer's SUV, Leo's motorcycle. Rachel looked at me. Ready? I was ready 3 months ago. We walked in. The living room was full. 15 people, all watching us. Mom stood. Nolan, thank you for coming. I didn't know I had a choice. We're family. We need to work through this. I looked around the room. Who here knows what this actually is? Silence. December 6th, Sunday dinner. Leo accidentally reveals a family ski trip I'd never been told about. 8-person Aspen Chalet. $12,000. My family of 4 excluded. Aunt Carol frowned. Excluded? They told Nolan there wasn't room, Rachel said. 8-person maximum. But there's only 6 of them going. Plus Nolan's family makes 10 total. Correct. The resort offers 8 and 10-person packages. They chose 8. Uncle Rob looked at my dad. Is that true? Dad opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Leo spoke up then. Uncomfortable. Yeah, I heard Aunt say something about how Nolan's kids are fine on their own, so they didn't need... He trailed off. Aunt Carol's hand went to her mouth. Murmurs around the room now. Aunt Carol's face shifted. I pulled out my phone. Showed the room one screenshot. The Aspen group chat. Mom's message from November. So excited for our core family trip. Just the essentials. Core family. I let that phrase hang in the air. Dylan and Harper weren't essential. That's what you decided. Rachel stood. Here are our terms. If you want access to our kids, you treat them exactly the same as Garrett's kids. Same gifts, same attendance, same priority. One-on-one time without Austin and Paige dominating. And if you can't do that, I continued, then we're done. No more dinners, no more holidays. We're done. Dad stood. You can't give us ultimatums. Watch me. You're tearing this family apart, Garrett said. I'm setting boundaries with people who've shown me my kids don't matter. Mom was sobbing. Aunt Carol had moved to comfort her, but she didn't argue with anything I'd said. Dad tried one more time. Nolan, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. You treat all 4 grandkids equally, or you don't get access to mine. And if we refuse, then we go on living our lives. We build our own family traditions. We show our kids they don't need anyone's approval to feel valued. I walked to the door. Rachel followed. Think about it. You know how to reach me. We left. In the car, Rachel asked, How do you feel? Light? Really? Yeah. I just cut off the part dragging us down. Either they change or we move on. Either way, we're free. 2 weeks later, Mom called. Can we take Dylan and Harper to the zoo? Just them. Just us. One day. Why? Because you're right. We haven't been treating them the same, and we want to start fixing that. One condition. Before any zoo trip, you sit down with Dylan and Harper, face to face. You tell them directly what you did wrong. No package excuses. No, we didn't mean to. You say, we hurt you. We chose wrong. We're sorry. Can you do that? Silence on the other end. Then, yes, we can do that. 3 days later, my parents came over. Dylan and Harper sat on the couch between Rachel and me while Mom and Dad sat across from them. I watched my mother look at my 7-year-old daughter and say the words, Harper, we hurt you. We made you feel like you weren't as important as your cousins. That was wrong. We're sorry. Dad looked at Dylan. We excluded you from a family trip. We made excuses instead of admitting we chose wrong. We're sorry. Dylan studied them both, then asked the question that mattered. Are you going to do it again? No, Mom said. We're going to do better. Harper asked quietly. Promise? Promise, Dad said. The zoo trip happened the following Saturday. 4 hours, just grandparents and grandkids. Dylan and Harper came home glowing. Grandma said I'm special, Harper told me. She said today was just about me. Small steps. Garrett never apologized. Dad cut his funding. Last I heard through Leo, he got a real job. Entry level. $40,000 a year. I didn't gloat. April evening. Sitting at my laptop with Dylan and Harper looking over my shoulder. Planning our Tokyo trip for summer. Dylan asked, can we go back to Dubai next year? Absolutely. Can Grandma and Grandpa come? I paused. Maybe. If they keep showing up for you. If they keep treating you the same as your cousins? What if they don't? Then we have an amazing trip without them. Harper nodded. I like our trips better anyway. I opened a new folder. Started building the Tokyo itinerary. Saved it next to the Dubai file. We were going back to Dubai next New Year. This time, it was tradition. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks. After I got an injury, my parents said, we can't afford to help you with bills. Then bought my brother a house. I afforded my own life. Without them. But now they want my help. But they can't afford my forgiveness now. Hey Reddit. So this is a story about how my parents let me struggle through a serious injury that cost me my job and nearly my entire savings, claiming they were broke, then turned around and dropped a down payment on a house for my little brother. And now, they're crawling back asking for help because karma finally caught up with them. Buckle up because this one's a ride. I'm Jake, 32 male, and I've been on my own since I was 18. Not because I wanted some adventure or independence or anything dramatic like that. Just because my parents made it clear early on that I was the kid who needed to figure things out on my own, while my younger brother Nathan got the full family support package. Growing up, the favoritism was so obvious it would have been funny if it wasn't my life. Nathan could do no wrong. Forgot his homework? Mom would drive it to school? Failed a test? Dad would march in demanding the teacher explain why his son wasn't getting proper instruction. Got caught drinking at 16? Just boys being boys. Everyone experiments. Me? I got a C on one assignment in sophomore year and got grounded for a month. No phone, no hanging out, just homework and chores. When I pointed out the double standard, Dad hit me with the classic line that still makes my blood boil. Nathan needs more support because he's sensitive. You're tough enough to handle it. Translation? We don't feel like parenting you, so we're going to call it character building. I worked through high school because I knew college wasn't going to pay for itself. Dad managed a mid-sized warehouse making decent money. Mom worked part-time at an insurance office. They weren't rich, but they weren't struggling either. Could have helped me with school. Chose not to. You'll appreciate your education more if you earn it yourself, Mom told me when I asked about help with tuition. Meanwhile, Nathan's college fund sat there untouched, growing interest, waiting for him to decide what he wanted to major in. Spoiler alert, he never did figure that out. I went to community college for 2 years, then transferred to state school. Lived in the cheapest apartment I could find with 3 roommates. Worked full-time at a warehouse during summer and winter breaks, part-time during school. Graduated with a degree in logistics management and about 28 grand in student loans. Started working at a shipping company right out of college. Entry-level position moving boxes and learning inventory systems. Wasn't glamorous, but I was good at it. Worked my way up over 6 years to a supervisor position, making about $52,000 a year. Enough to cover my loans, rent a decent 1-bedroom apartment, and actually save a little each month. Nathan, meanwhile, dropped out of college after a year and a half. Just stopped going to classes. When my parents found out, they weren't even mad. Just disappointed in a soft way that came with 0 consequences. He moved back home rent-free and spent the next 2 years bouncing between part-time gigs at coffee shops and retail stores. Every family dinner became this weird therapy session where my parents would talk about Nathan finding his path and discovering his passion, like he was on some spiritual journey instead of just being lazy and directionless. When I'd mention my promotions or pay raises, I'd get a distracted, "That's nice, honey," before the conversation pivoted back to Nathan's latest existential crisis about whether he should apply to art school or try to become a real estate agent, or maybe learn to code. The injury happened last October. We were doing inventory in one of the main warehouses, and I was up on a scissor lift checking stock on the high shelves. Safety protocol says you're supposed to have a spotter, and the lift should be on a level surface. But we were behind schedule, and my manager was pushing everyone to move faster. I was reaching for a clipboard that had fallen behind some boxes when the whole lift shifted. The ground wasn't as level as I thought, and the weight distribution was off. Thing tipped sideways, and I went down about 12 feet, landed hard on my left side. The impact broke my collarbone, fractured 3 ribs, and did something nasty to my shoulder that required surgery. The pain was unreal. Couldn't breathe without feeling like someone was stabbing me. Couldn't move my arm. Just laid there on the concrete warehouse floor trying not to pass out while my coworkers called for help. Hospital, surgery, physical therapy, the whole thing. Doctor said I'd be out of work for at least 4 months, maybe 6 depending on how well I healed. Workers' comp would cover the medical bills, but only pay a percentage of my salary. And my company had this policy where, if you were out on medical leave for more than 90 days, they could terminate your position. Did the math real quick and realized I was looking at losing about $2,500 a month in income for potentially half a year. Plus, I'd need help with basic stuff, because I literally couldn't lift my arm above my waist or carry anything heavier than a coffee cup. Called my parents from the hospital the day after surgery. Explained the situation. Told them I was going to be in rough shape financially and might need to borrow some money to cover rent and bills while I recovered. Maybe crash with them for a month or two since I couldn't really take care of myself yet. Dad's response? Jake, we'd love to help, but money's really tight right now. Your mother's hours got cut and we've got our own bills to worry about. You're going to have to figure something out. Mom got on the phone and basically echoed the same thing. Added some nonsense about how I was always so independent and capable. Surely I could work something out. Maybe ask my friends for help. Look into government assistance programs. I was in a hospital bed, high on pain medication, could barely move, and my parents were telling me to figure it out on my own. The betrayal hit different than the favoritism I'd grown up with. This wasn't about getting less attention or fewer privileges. This was about actually needing help and being told no. My buddy Carlos came through, though. He and his wife had just bought a house with an extra bedroom, and they offered to let me stay with them while I recovered. Wouldn't even let me pay rent, just said to help with groceries when I could. Family's supposed to help family, Carlos said when I tried to thank him for the 100th time. And sometimes your real family ain't the people you're related to. Moving in with them was humbling in ways I didn't expect. I'd always been the independent guy who handled his own problems. Now I needed help with everything. Carlos had to carry my bags up the stairs because I couldn't lift anything. Amy set up the bedroom with everything on my right side since I couldn't use my left arm. The first night there, I just sat on the edge of the bed and cried. Not from physical pain, though that was brutal. From the realization that strangers were treating me better than my own parents. Carlos knocked on the door, came in without saying anything, and just sat there with me until I pulled myself together. Those first few months were brutal. Physical therapy hurt worse than the original injury some days. I'd wake up in the middle of the night because I rolled onto my bad shoulder. Couldn't dress myself for weeks. Carlos's wife Amy had to help me with basic stuff like putting on shirts and cutting up food. The physical therapy sessions were their own special kind of hell. 3 times a week I'd go to this clinic where a therapist named Sandra would put me through exercises that felt like torture. Shoulder rotations, resistance bands, weight training with 2-pound dumbbells that felt like concrete blocks. Pain is your body healing, Sandra would say, while I gritted my teeth through another rep. You're rebuilding strength that the injury took away. Yeah, real inspirational stuff when you're sweating through your shirt, trying to lift your arm above your head. The mental aspect was worse than the physical sometimes. I'd been a supervisor, had people reporting to me, was on track for a management position. Now I was dependent on friends to help me shower, and couldn't even open a jar of peanut butter on my own. Carlos never made me feel like a burden, though. He'd joke about how I was finally learning what it was like to be humble. His wife would laugh and tell him to shut up, then ask if I needed help with anything. Their kids, 2 boys aged 6 and 8, thought I was like a fun uncle who lived with them. They'd draw me pictures and leave them on my nightstand. One night, about 6 weeks in, I was having a particularly bad evening. Pain was worse than usual, and I'd just gotten another email from the company saying they still weren't sure when I could come back. I was sitting in their living room just staring at nothing when Amy sat down next to me. You doing okay? Not really. Feel like everything's falling apart and I can't do anything to stop it. She nodded. When Carlos got laid off from his job 3 years ago, before we had the boys, we almost lost everything. Credit cards maxed out, behind on rent, eating ramen for weeks straight. It was the darkest period of our life. I hadn't known that. Carlos had never mentioned it. What got you through it? Each other, and accepting help when it was offered. Carlos had this thing where he felt like asking for help was admitting failure. Took him months to finally accept that sometimes you need people. That needing help doesn't make you weak. I hate needing help. I know. But the people who care about you don't see it as a burden. They see it as a chance to show up for someone they care about. Let us help you, Jake. That's what family does. That conversation stuck with me. Started trying to be better about accepting their help instead of fighting it all the time. The financial hit was worse than I expected. Even with workers' comp covering some of it, I burned through my savings trying to keep up with rent on my apartment, my car payment, insurance, student loans, all of it. By month 3, I was basically broke. Had to sell my car just to cover bills. Started missing loan payments, credit score tanked, and through all of this, my parents never called to check on me. Not once. I'd text updates sometimes and get back these short responses like, "Glad you're healing," or "Hang in there." Nothing substantial. No offers to visit. No asking if I needed anything. Meanwhile, I'm seeing Nathan post on social media about family dinners at my parents' house, weekend trips to the lake, all the normal family stuff, just without me. Month 4. I finally got medical clearance to return to work. Except my position had been filled, and the company offered me a lower-level job at $38,000. Take it or leave it. I took it because I needed income, but it stung. 6 years of working my way up, gone because I got hurt doing my job. My caseworker said I could probably sue for wrongful termination or something, but lawyers cost money I didn't have. So I swallowed it and went back to basically where I started. Started rebuilding slowly. Moved into a cheaper apartment, picked up a used car, created a strict budget to start clawing my way out of the hole. Carlos and Amy helped me move, helped me get set up. Still wouldn't let me pay them back for the months I stayed with them. This whole time, I'm getting random texts from my mom asking about Christmas plans or my birthday. Surface level stuff, never acknowledging that she'd left me to drown when I actually needed help. And I played along because what else was I gonna do? They're still my parents. Then came Thanksgiving. Mom texted asking if I was coming to dinner. I said yeah because the alternative was eating alone, and I figured I could handle one awkward family meal. Carlos offered to let me spend Thanksgiving with his family instead. You don't owe them your presents, man. Especially not after how they treated you. But I wanted to see them. Needed to see them, actually. Part of me was still hoping for some kind of acknowledgement or apology. That they'd see how I'd struggled and maybe feel bad about leaving me hanging. Stupid hope, but hope nonetheless. Showed up at their house and immediately noticed something was different. New furniture in the living room. Big sectional couch that definitely cost a few grand. New TV mounted on the wall, had to be at least 65 inches. Kitchen had been renovated at some point. New granite countertops, fancy backsplash, stainless steel appliances. The place looked good. Really good. Like they'd spent serious money recently. Walking through that door and seeing all the upgrades was like getting punched in the gut. While I'd been selling my car to make rent, they'd been remodeling their kitchen. Nathan was there looking pleased with himself, wearing some designer hoodie I knew cost at least $200. He gave me this weird bro hug that I barely returned. Mom fussed over the turkey like she was on some cooking show. Dad sat in his new recliner watching football. Barely acknowledged me when I came in. Dinner was tense from the start. Nobody mentioned my injury or asked how I was doing. The conversation stayed surface level. Weather, local news, what movie Nathan saw last weekend. I sat there pushing mashed potatoes around my plate, watching my family act like the past year hadn't happened. Then about halfway through dinner, Nathan couldn't contain his excitement anymore. Started talking about this apartment he was looking at. Turns out my parents had been helping him search for a place to buy. An actual house. They were talking about down payments and mortgage rates and interest locks. And I'm sitting there doing mental math that wasn't adding up. The real estate market is crazy right now, Dad was saying. But we found this great opportunity in Riverside. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, nice little yard. Perfect starter home. Mom nodded enthusiastically. And the neighborhood is up and coming. Great investment. Nathan was practically bouncing in his seat. I've never lived anywhere that was actually mine, you know. It's gonna be so cool. I felt something cold settling in my stomach. Wait, I interrupted. You guys are helping Nathan buy a house? The table went quiet. Dad looked at me like I'd asked a stupid question. Well, yeah. He can't live with us forever. It's time he got his own place. How much are you helping him with? My parents exchanged this look. The kind of look that said they hadn't planned on having this conversation in front of me. Mom did that thing where she tries to make something sound smaller than it is. Spoke in that overly casual tone that meant she was about to say something she knew I wouldn't like. We're just giving him a little help with the down payment. Nothing major. How much? Nathan, bless his complete lack of self-awareness, jumped in excited. Couldn't read the room to save his life. They're giving me $50,000 for the down payment. Isn't that awesome? I found this great 3-bedroom place in Riverside that's only $285,000. With their help, I can actually afford it. The mortgage payment is going to be like $1,800 a month, but I can swing that with my job. The room went dead quiet. I must have had a look on my face because even Nathan shut up. Mom was suddenly very interested in her green beans. Dad cleared his throat and reached for his water glass. $50,000. These people who couldn't afford to help me with rent while I recovered from a serious injury had somehow scraped together 50 grand to buy my brother a house. That's great, I said, voice flat. Real generous of you guys. Dad picked up on my tone. Don't start, Jake. This is different. How exactly is it different? Nathan needs this. He's been struggling to find his direction, and having his own place will give him stability and motivation. I laughed. Couldn't help it. The absurdity was too much. I needed help 8 months ago when I literally couldn't work and you told me money was tight. But Nathan needs a house so suddenly you've got 50 grand lying around? Mom jumped in with her peacekeeping voice. Jake, we've been saving that money for years. It's not the same as having extra money for emergencies. Saving it for what? For him specifically? The silence was my answer. Right. So you've had this money the whole time. You just decided helping me wasn't a priority. Nathan tried to defend them. Dude, it's not like that. They were going to help you, but what? I never asked. You never needed it. You always figure stuff out. There it was again. That same line I'd heard my whole life. I was too capable, too independent, too good at handling my own problems to deserve actual support. I needed it, I said quietly. I asked for help and you said no. I slept on a friend's couch for 3 months because I couldn't afford rent. I sold my car. I maxed out my credit cards and destroyed my credit score. I needed help and you left me to figure it out while saving money to buy him a house. Dad's face was getting red. We made a decision about how to use our money. You're an adult. You don't get to dictate what we do with our finances. You're absolutely right. It's your money. Spend it however you want. But don't expect me to pretend this is okay. And don't expect me to keep showing up to family dinners like nothing happened. I got up and left. Didn't even grab my coat. Just walked out and sat in my car for 20 minutes trying to calm down before driving home. That was 8 months ago. Haven't spoken to them since except for a few text exchanges that went nowhere. They tried the guilt trip route at first. Mom sent these long messages about how families should stick together and how hurt they were that I was being distant. Full paragraphs about how they'd always loved me and didn't understand why I was pulling away, playing the victim like she was the injured party here. Dad sent shorter messages, basically telling me to grow up and stop being dramatic. You're too old to throw tantrums over family decisions, one text read. We did what we thought was best for Nathan. You need to move on. Move on. Right. Like they'd just accidentally forgotten to call me back and not deliberately left me to struggle through a medical crisis. Nathan sent me one text that just said, sorry, bro, and nothing else. Didn't even have the guts to call. Probably typed it while sitting on the couch my parents bought him for his new house. I focused on rebuilding my life without them. Worked overtime whenever I could. My supervisor was cool about letting me take extra shifts since I'd proven myself reliable. Started picking up Saturday shifts at time and a half, sometimes pulling 55 to 60-hour weeks. The grind was brutal, but necessary. Every paycheck I'd split between paying down debt and building my emergency fund back up. Made a detailed spreadsheet tracking every dollar, every debt, every goal. Carlos called it my revenge budget. Getting my life together was the best middle finger I could give my parents. Got a second part-time gig doing inventory consulting for smaller companies on weekends. One of my former coworkers had started a consulting business and needed someone who knew inventory systems. 3 hours on Sunday mornings counting stock and organizing warehouses for local businesses. Extra $400 a month that went straight to debt. It was exhausting. Working Monday through Friday at my regular job, Saturday overtime shifts, Sunday morning consulting gigs. My social life was non-existent. Dated a woman for about 2 months before she got tired of me always being busy. Couldn't even blame her. Who wants to date someone who works 7 days a week? But the numbers were moving in the right direction. Credit card balances dropping. Emergency fund growing. Credit score ticking up point by point. Started hitting milestones that felt huge. Paying off one credit card completely. Getting my credit score over 650. Saving up a $1,000 emergency fund. Carlos became like the brother I should have had. Real family. Chosen family. He helped me create a financial recovery plan. Introduced me to his financial advisor friend who gave me free advice. Kept me sane through the worst of it. His family included me in everything. Birthdays, holidays, random barbecues never made me feel like charity or a burden. This is what family does, Amy told me once when I tried to thank her for probably the 100th time. We show up for each other, not just when it's convenient, but when it's hard. That's what makes it real. Their kids started calling me Uncle Jake, would make me birthday cards and Christmas cards with crayon drawings. The younger one, Danny, asked me once why I didn't spend holidays with my other family. Because they're not really my family, I told him. You guys are. What makes us your family if we're not related? Carlos overheard and jumped in. Family isn't about being related, buddy. It's about who shows up when you need them. The kid thought about that for a second, then shrugged and went back to his coloring. But the words stuck with me. My credit score started recovering faster than I expected. All those on-time payments adding up. Paid off my credit cards completely by month 6. The feeling of zeroing out that last balance was better than Christmas. Actually cried a little looking at the payment confirmation. Got promoted back to a supervisor position at work with a pay bump to $48,000. Not where I was before the injury, but climbing back. My boss pulled me aside after announcing the promotion and said he'd watched how I'd handled adversity, and it showed character. That I was the kind of person he wanted in leadership. That meant more to me than he probably knew. Being recognized for working hard and pushing through difficulty instead of just being given handouts because someone felt sorry for me. Found a better apartment in a decent neighborhood. 2 bedrooms because I wanted actual space. Had a balcony where I could sit in the evenings and just breathe. No roommates, no favors, just my own place that I paid for with my own money. Signed that lease feeling proud in a way I hadn't felt in years. Bought a reliable used car. Nothing fancy, just a Honda Civic with 80,000 miles that ran great. Paid cash for it using money I'd saved from all those extra shifts. The dealer looked surprised when I pulled out the envelope of bills. Felt good to make a major purchase without financing anything. Things were looking up. I was climbing out of the hole my injury and my family's abandonment had dug for me. Doing it completely on my own terms with help from people who actually gave a damn about me. Then 2 weeks ago, I got a call from an unknown number. Normally I don't answer those, but something made me pick up. Maybe curiosity, maybe just bad timing. It was Nathan. He sounded stressed. Voice had that edge to it that meant he was trying to stay calm, but failing. Started with some awkward small talk asking how I was doing like we just talked yesterday instead of not speaking for months. Asked about my job, my apartment, if I was seeing anyone. All surface level stuff that we both knew wasn't why he called. Listen, he finally said after about 2 minutes of dancing around it. I know things have been weird between us and the parents. I should have reached out sooner. It was awkward, you know? After Thanksgiving and everything. Is there a point to this call, Nathan? Yeah, right. So I'm in a bit of a situation and I was hoping you could help me out. I almost hung up right there, but curiosity got the better of me. Had to hear what kind of situation required calling the brother he'd ghosted for months. What kind of situation? The house they helped me buy? I'm having trouble making the mortgage payments. I thought my job was solid, but they cut my hours back in January, and I'm barely covering bills. The utilities alone are killing me. 3 bedrooms means heating and cooling costs are crazy. Plus the HOA fees that I didn't really budget for properly. And the property taxes were higher than I expected. He was spiraling now, words coming faster like he'd been holding this in for a while. I'm like 3 months behind on the mortgage, and the bank is sending warning letters. Got one that says they're starting foreclosure proceedings if I don't catch up by next month. I've tried everything, man. Picked up extra shifts when they're available, cut back on eating out, even sold some stuff. But it's not enough. Sorry to hear that. What's this got to do with me? Long pause. Could hear him breathing on the other end. I was hoping you could loan me some money, just to get caught up. Maybe like 5 grand? I'll pay you back, I swear. Soon as I get my hours back to normal, I'll send you monthly payments. We can draw up a contract or whatever you want. The audacity. The sheer audacity of this kid. My brother who'd watched my parents hand him $50,000 while I struggled through an injury. Who'd sent 1 2-word text in 8 months. Who'd never once asked how I was doing or if I needed anything. This guy was calling me for a loan. Let me get this straight. Mom and Dad gave you $50,000 for a house you can't afford. You're 3 months behind on your mortgage. And you're calling me, the brother you haven't spoken to in almost a year, to ask for 5 grand? I'm desperate, man. I don't know what else to do. I've tried everything. Have you asked Mom and Dad for help? Another long pause. This one said everything. They can't help. They've got their own money problems right now. That got my attention. Sat up straighter in my chair. What kind of money problems? I don't know all the details. Dad doesn't talk about it much. But something about his job not working out and some investments that went bad. They lost a chunk of money somewhere. They're selling the house. Wait, hold up. My parents were selling their house? The house they'd lived in for 20 years? The house they'd just renovated with new furniture and appliances? They're selling the house? Their house? Yeah, they're downsizing to an apartment or something, moving into a 2-bedroom place across town. It's a whole thing. Mom's really upset about it, but Dad says they don't have a choice. Something about needing to access the equity to cover debts. The pieces were starting to fit together in my head. They'd spent their savings buying Nathan a house. Something went wrong with Dad's job. Now they were broke and selling their house to stay afloat. And Nathan was about to lose his house because they couldn't bail him out anymore. But anyway, about that loan, I cut him off. Nathan, I'm not giving you $5,000. I'm not giving you $5. You're on your own. Jake, please. I'm gonna lose the house. Then you lose the house. Should have thought about that before buying something you couldn't afford. You're really gonna let me become homeless over this? Over some grudge about stuff that happened last year? The lack of self-awareness was stunning. This isn't about a grudge. This is about consequences. You made choices. Bad ones. That's not my problem to fix. What happened to family helping family? I laughed again. Same hollow laugh from that Thanksgiving dinner. You mean like how our parents helped me when I was injured and broke? Oh wait, they didn't. Or like how you and them stayed in touch and checked on me during the worst time of my life. Oh wait, that didn't happen either. That kind of family help? I said I was sorry. You sent a text that said sorry, bro. That's not an apology. That's a cop-out. And now you want money? Nah. Figure it out yourself. You're capable and independent, right? I hung up before he could respond. 2 days later, my phone rang again. Mom this time. Jake, we need to talk. About what? About your brother. He told us you refused to help him with his mortgage situation. That's right. I did refuse. How can you be so cold? He's your brother. He's going to lose everything. Everything you gave him, you mean. The house he couldn't afford that you enabled him to buy. That everything? She made this frustrated sound. This isn't about the past. This is about him needing help right now. Funny how it's only about the present when you need something from me. When I needed help, it was also about the present and you couldn't be bothered. That's not fair, Jake. Our financial situation was different then. Was it though? Because you had $50,000 saved up. You just chose not to use any of it to help me. Dad grabbed the phone. I could hear the exchange in the background. His voice came through tight and controlled. Jake, your mother and I made decisions we thought were best at the time. We're not going to apologize for helping your brother get started in life. I'm not asking for an apology. You called me, remember? We're calling because we need you to be reasonable. Nathan needs $5,000, or he's going to lose his house. You're in a position to help him, and you're choosing not to out of spite. I'm choosing not to because it's not my responsibility. He's an adult. You guys are adults. I'm not a bank. And even if I was, I wouldn't loan money to people who've proven they can't manage it. This is what's wrong with your generation. No sense of family obligation. That one made me laugh. My generation? This from the man who watched me struggle and did nothing? Dad, I've got family obligations. To myself. To the people who actually showed up for me when I needed them. That doesn't include you guys anymore. Mom took the phone back. Her voice was different now. Smaller. Jake, we're in trouble. Real trouble. Your father lost his job 6 months ago. We've been burning through our savings. That's why we're selling the house. We were hoping to help Nathan keep his place and move in with him for a while until we get back on our feet. The whole picture clicked into place. They'd spent their savings helping Nathan buy a house he couldn't afford. Dad lost his job. Now they were broke and planning to move in with Nathan. Except Nathan was about to lose the house. So their backup plan was falling apart and they needed me to bail them out. That sounds really difficult, I said. I'm sorry you're going through that. So you'll help? Absolutely not. Silence on the other end. You're going to let your parents end up homeless? The same way you let me struggle through an injury that cost me my job and my savings? Yeah, I am. Figure it out. You're resourceful people. You'll find a way. Jake, please. I'm done with this conversation. Don't call me again asking for money. Don't call me at all unless you're ready to actually acknowledge what you did and why it was wrong. Until then, we've got nothing to talk about. I hung up and blocked their numbers. Blocked Nathan too. Then I sat down and had a drink because my hands were shaking. Carlos called that night like he somehow knew I needed to talk. Told him everything. He listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he said, "Good for you, man. They made their choices. They don't get to guilt you into fixing their mess after they left you hanging." Part of me feels terrible, though. They're my parents. Being someone's parent doesn't give you a free pass to treat them like garbage and then demand help when you need it. You offered them a chance to be family when you needed them. They said no. Now they get to live with that decision. He was right. I knew he was right. But it still felt weird, like I was doing something wrong by protecting myself. The next few days, I got texts from relatives I barely knew. Aunts and uncles I hadn't spoken to in years, suddenly very concerned about family unity and forgiveness. Clearly, my parents had been working the phone tree trying to drum up pressure, playing the victim card with anyone who'd listen. My mom's cousin Linda texted, "I heard about the situation with your parents. They're really struggling and need family support right now. Blood is thicker than water, Jake." I replied. The full quote is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb," meaning chosen relationships are stronger than family bonds. Funny how people always forget that part. My Uncle Gary called directly. Didn't even bother with hello. "Jake, your mother called me in tears. She says you're refusing to help them when they're about to lose everything. That's not how we raised you kids to behave." With all due respect, Uncle Gary, you didn't raise me at all. You see me maybe twice a year at family events. You have no idea how they raised me or what our relationship is actually like. But they're your parents. They gave you life. They gave me life, then told me to handle it on my own when I needed help. I'm just following their example. He made some frustrated noise and launched into a speech about family obligation and respect. Told me I was being immature and selfish, that I'd regret this decision when they were gone. All the classic guilt trip lines people use when they don't actually understand the situation, but feel entitled to judge anyway. I let him finish his speech, then said, "Are you done? Because I've got to get ready for work. You know, that thing I do to support myself since my parents taught me to be so independent." Didn't hear back from him after that, or from Linda, or from most of the other flying monkeys my parents sent my way. They'd deliver their guilt trip message, I'd push back, and they'd disappear back to their own lives. Easy to judge from the outside when you're not the one who lived through it. One uncle actually had the nerve to text me, "Your parents gave you life. The least you can do is help them in their time of need." I replied, "They gave me life, then told me to handle it on my own. I'm just following their parenting philosophy." Didn't hear back from him after that. 3 weeks went by. Radio silence from my parents and Nathan. Then I got an email from my mom's account with the subject line, "Please read this." The email was long, like really long. Started with the usual guilt trip stuff about family and love and obligation. Then it shifted to blaming me for being stubborn and holding grudges. Said some pretty nasty things about how I'd always been the difficult child who needed to be right about everything. But at the end, there was this part that actually seemed honest for once. "Your father and I are scared. We don't know what's going to happen to us. We made mistakes with how we treated you, and we're sorry if you felt unsupported during your injury. But we need help now, and you're the only one who can provide it. Please don't abandon us the way you think we abandoned you." The apology was buried under so much other nonsense that it barely counted, and it was still focused on them and their needs. But it was something. I sat on that email for 2 days before responding, wrote and deleted probably 10 different replies before settling on what I actually sent. "Mom and Dad, I understand you're scared and struggling, and I know what that feels like because I lived through it not that long ago. The difference is I had to figure it out completely on my own while you had options and chose not to use them to help me. You're right that I felt unsupported during my injury. I didn't just feel that way. I was unsupported. I asked for help and you said no. You had money saved but decided it was more important to buy Nathan a house than to help your other son keep his apartment during a medical crisis. Those were your choices and you're entitled to make them. But I'm also entitled to make mine. And I choose not to involve myself in your financial situation. Not out of spite or revenge, but because I've learned that I can't count on you and you've learned you can't count on me. That's the relationship we built together. I don't wish you harm. I hope you find a way through this. But I'm not going to be the solution to problems you created. You taught me to be independent and self-sufficient. Congratulations, the lesson stuck. Take care of yourselves. I'm sure you'll figure something out. You're resourceful people. Jake." Sent it and then blocked their email too. I was done. Completely done. That was 3 months ago. Through the family grapevine, I heard they ended up moving into a small apartment across town. Nathan lost his house and moved back in with them. All 3 of them in a 2-bedroom apartment from what I understand. My aunt, who's actually decent, called me once to check in. She didn't pressure me to reconcile or help them out. Just wanted to make sure I was doing okay. "Your parents are telling everyone you're a terrible son who abandoned them," she said. "I wanted you to know that some of us know better. We've watched how they treated you over the years. Thanks. That actually means a lot. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Sometimes you have to let people face the consequences of their choices even when it's hard to watch. I appreciated that more than I could express. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks. My parents invited my sister's new boyfriend to Christmas but told me there wasn't room for my wife of 8 years. I said, no problem. Then I stopped paying their property taxes. Turns out the county doesn't care about family drama. Hey Reddit, my parents excluded my wife from Christmas to make room for my sister's flavor of the month boyfriend. So I stopped paying the property taxes on their house. What followed was an absolute disaster. Here's the full story. I'm 34 male, a civil engineer who designs water treatment systems for municipalities across the Midwest. Not glamorous work, but steady income and actual job security. Most days involve reviewing blueprints, calculating flow rates, and making sure small towns have clean drinking water. The kind of work nobody thinks about until something goes wrong. My wife Hannah, 32 female, is a pediatric nurse who works 12-hour shifts and comes home exhausted but never complains. We've been married for 8 years, together for 11. She's the kind of person who remembers everyone's birthday, bakes cookies for new neighbors, and volunteers at the animal shelter on her days off. When we first started dating, she showed up to meet my parents with a homemade pie and asked thoughtful questions about their lives. My mom later told me Hannah was sweet, but in that tone that suggested sweet meant boring. Hannah grew up in a working-class family in Oregon. Her dad drove long-haul trucks before he passed away from a heart attack when she was 25. Her mom still works retail management at a department store, pulling 50-hour weeks at 62 years old because retirement isn't really an option on her income. Hannah sends her mom money every month, never complains about it, just quietly helps because that's what family does in her world. From day one, Hannah tried with my family. She'd call my mom just to chat, send care packages with my dad's favorite snacks, remember to ask about Brianna's latest job drama. She drove 6 hours each way for my grandmother's funeral, even though she'd only met her twice. She sat through countless family dinners, where the conversation revolved entirely around Brianna's life, while Hannah's accomplishments at work went unmentioned. Never once complained, never asked for recognition, just kept showing up and being kind. My younger sister Brianna, 29 female, is basically the opposite. Works in sales at a luxury car dealership, changes boyfriends like people change seasonal wardrobes, and treats relationships like test drives. Nothing wrong with being single and dating around, but she acts like every new guy is her soulmate until the next one shows up 3 months later. The pattern with Brianna's relationships was predictable. She'd meet someone, decide within a week he was the one, introduce him to the family with great fanfare, and my parents would immediately start planning the wedding. 3 months later, she'd discover some fatal flaw. He didn't make enough money, he wasn't ambitious enough, he wanted kids too soon, he didn't want kids at all, and the relationship would implode. Then came the tearful family dinners, where we'd all have to comfort her and validate that she'd made the right choice, leaving another perfectly decent guy. My parents retired to a small town in Missouri about 5 years ago. Dad worked for the Postal Service for 30 years. Mom was an elementary school secretary. They bought this cute 3-bedroom house on 2 acres with their retirement savings. Problem is, property taxes in their county are higher than they anticipated, and their fixed income doesn't stretch as far as they thought it would. That's where I come in. Or came in, I should say. 3 years ago, Dad called me sounding stressed. They were behind on property taxes, about $8,000 in arrears. The county had sent warnings, and they were facing penalties and potential liens. He didn't want to ask, but could I help them out? Just this once until they got their finances sorted. The way he presented it made it sound temporary, like they'd hit an unexpected bump but would bounce back quickly. He explained they'd underestimated their property taxes when they bought the house, had some unexpected expenses with the move, and just needed help getting caught up this one time. After that, they'd have it under control. I discussed it with Hannah. She didn't hesitate. They're your parents. If we can help, we should help. So I paid it. $8,000 from our savings, which we'd been building for a down payment on a bigger house. We figured family comes first, and they'd appreciate the gesture. Hannah had been setting aside money from every paycheck, dreaming about a house with a real yard and maybe an extra bedroom for when her mom visited. We'd been looking at listings, imagining which neighborhood we wanted to settle in. That $8,000 set us back about a year on our timeline, but we told ourselves it was worth it to help family. Except it wasn't just once. 6 months later, Dad called again. They'd fallen behind again, about $4,000 this time. Different story, though. Unexpected medical bills from Mom's knee surgery. The surgery had been necessary, Insurance had covered most of it, but the copays and physical therapy added up. I paid it. Then it became a pattern. Every year, like clockwork, I'd get the call about property taxes. The amount varied, sometimes 3,000, sometimes 6, but it was always the same story. Fixed income, unexpected expenses, just need a little help. Each time, Dad would sound stressed and apologetic. Each time, he'd promise this was absolutely the last time. Each time, I'd transfer the money and watch our house fund shrink. The excuses evolved over time. First year was the move and adjustment. Second year was Mom's knee surgery and some house repairs. Third year was their car breaking down and needing replacement, plus the property taxes had increased. Always something urgent. Always something that couldn't wait. Always something that somehow only I could solve. Over 3 years, I paid roughly $42,000 in property taxes for a house I don't own and will never inherit. Hannah never complained once, even though it meant we were still renting our small 2-bedroom apartment instead of buying our own place. Our landlord kept raising rent, and we kept staying because we couldn't save enough for a down payment when we were funding my parents' retirement. Here's what really bothered me, though. They never said thank you. Not really. It was always just, "We appreciate you helping out," followed immediately by some comment about how we probably wouldn't understand financial stress since we don't have kids, and our expenses are so much lower. The lack of gratitude ate at me more than the money itself. When you give someone $8,000, you expect at least some acknowledgement of the sacrifice involved. Instead, my parents treated it like I was just fulfilling a basic family obligation, like showing up for Thanksgiving or sending a birthday card. I remember one conversation where I mentioned to my mom that the property tax payments were affecting our ability to save for a house. She actually said, "Well, you're young. You have plenty of time to buy a house. We're on a fixed income and don't have that luxury." Like my financial goals were somehow less valid because I was younger. Never mind that Hannah and I were working full-time jobs and trying to build our own future. Meanwhile, my sister Brianna was living her best life posting vacation photos from Cancun, Miami, and Las Vegas. New car every 2 years. Designer everything. Her Instagram was a highlight reel of expensive restaurants, luxury hotels, and shopping sprees. But somehow she was never asked to chip in for Mom and Dad's property taxes. I'd see her post from some rooftop bar in Miami, drinks in hand, designer sunglasses, caption about living my best life, and then I'd get a call from Dad asking if I could help with the property taxes again. The juxtaposition was maddening. When I mentioned this once, Dad got defensive. "Your sister has her own financial obligations. She's building her career." Right, building her career one bottle service tab at a time. He explained that Brianna needed to maintain a certain image for her sales job, that entertaining clients and looking successful was part of her professional development. Meanwhile, my actual professional development and financial stability didn't seem to factor into their calculations at all. I'd also point out that Brianna made decent money at the dealership, base salary plus commissions on luxury car sales. She wasn't struggling. She was choosing to spend her money on lifestyle instead of helping family. But that observation never landed. My parents had an endless supply of excuses for why Brianna couldn't contribute, but I could. The Christmas situation started brewing in early November. Mom called about holiday plans, asked if Hannah and I were coming. Of course we were. We came every year. We'd already requested time off work, booked a hotel nearby since their guest room was small, and Hannah had already started shopping for gifts. "Wonderful," Mom said. "It'll be nice to have everyone together." 2 weeks later, Brianna started dating someone new. His name was Preston. From her Facebook posts, he worked in finance, drove a ridiculous sports car, and owned multiple designer suits. Classic Brianna type, looked good in photos, probably had the personality of a parking meter. She'd known him for exactly 11 days when she announced on the family group text that she was bringing Preston to Christmas. Mom immediately responded, "That's wonderful, sweetheart. We can't wait to meet him." I didn't think much of it. Their house wasn't huge, but it could accommodate a few extra people for a holiday dinner. We'd managed before when extended family visited. Then I got the phone call that changed everything. Mom called me at work, which was unusual. She had this weird, apologetic tone that immediately put me on alert. Usually when she called during business hours, it was about something urgent. Someone in the hospital, a death in the family, that kind of thing. But this tone was different. This was the voice she used when she knew she was about to ask for something unreasonable. "So about Christmas," she started. "We've been thinking about the space situation." "What space situation?" "Well, with Brianna bringing Preston and your aunt and uncle coming, the house is going to be quite full. We're worried about overcrowding." I still wasn't getting it. Their house had hosted bigger gatherings before. Just last Easter, they'd had 12 people for dinner, and everyone fit fine. Sure, it was cozy, but nobody minded. That's what family gatherings are supposed to be. Everyone squeezed together, making it work. Okay, so we'll squeeze in. We've done it before. Long pause. The kind of pause that tells you the other person is trying to figure out how to say something they know will go over badly. Actually, honey, we were thinking maybe this year you and Hannah could sit this one out. Just this once. Let Brianna have her moment with Preston. You understand. My brain needed a few seconds to process what I'd just heard. The words made sense individually, but together they formed a sentence that seemed impossible. You're uninviting us from Christmas? Not uninviting. Just suggesting maybe you two could celebrate on your own this year. You're married. You have your own traditions now. Brianna really wants us to meet Preston, and with limited space. Mom, your house has 3 bedrooms and a finished basement. How is there not enough space? Another pause. Well, Preston is very particular about accommodations. Brianna mentioned he's not comfortable with cramped quarters. And you know how your aunt and uncle need the main guest room because of your uncle's back problems? The excuse was paper-thin and insulting. Preston, who'd been dating my sister for 2 weeks, needed comfortable accommodations. But Hannah, who'd been part of this family for 8 years, could just stay home. The guest room that Hannah and I had stayed in for the past 7 Christmases was suddenly unavailable because a stranger might be uncomfortable. So let me get this straight, I said slowly. You're asking me and my wife to skip Christmas so that Brianna's boyfriend of 2 weeks can be comfortable? Don't be dramatic. It's just one Christmas. You'll have plenty more. We come every year. We've never missed one. Hannah's family is in Oregon, so she doesn't get to see them during the holidays. Your Christmas is basically her only family Christmas. Well, maybe this year she could visit her own family then. That would work out perfectly. The casual way she dismissed Hannah, like she was some interchangeable accessory, made my blood pressure spike. And what about all the years we've been coming? Do those not count for anything? Of course they count. But Brianna specifically asked if Preston could come, and we want to support her relationship. You know how hard it's been for her to find someone stable. Preston had been around for 14 days. Hannah had been around for over a decade. But apparently 2 weeks with the right last name and a sports car outweighed 8 years of marriage and family integration. Does Brianna even know you're uninviting us? I asked. We discussed it as a family. Everyone agreed this was the best solution for the space issue. Everyone except Hannah and me, apparently. But we didn't get a vote. I should have argued more. Should have pointed out the absurdity, the disrespect, the sheer insanity of excluding a daughter-in-law to accommodate a stranger. But I was at work, had a meeting in 10 minutes, and needed time to process what was happening. Okay, I said. No problem. Mom sounded relieved. Oh, wonderful. I knew you'd understand. You're always so reasonable about these things. We'll miss you, but we'll make it up to you. I hung up and sat in my office, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed with a text from Hannah. How's your day going? I didn't respond. Didn't know how to explain what had just happened. That night, I told her. She took it better than I expected, which somehow made it worse. It's okay, she said quietly. We can do our own thing, make our own traditions. It's not okay. You've been nothing but kind to them for 8 years. You remember their birthdays, send them care packages, call to check on them, and they just uninvited you for some random guy. I know, but it's their house, their holiday. We can't force them to include me. They shouldn't need to be forced. You're family. She smiled sadly. Apparently not as much family as Preston. That night, I lay awake thinking about everything. The $42,000 I'd paid in property taxes, the countless times Hannah had bent over backward to be the perfect daughter-in-law, the years of Christmas visits, birthday cards, anniversary calls, all of it apparently worth less than 2 weeks with a guy who drove a Porsche. The next morning, I logged into my bank account and looked at the scheduled payment I had set up for my parents' property taxes. The next installment was due in January, $6,000. I canceled it. Then I called the county treasurer's office and removed my name from the automatic payment authorization. From now on, if my parents wanted their property taxes paid, they could figure it out themselves. Hannah noticed I was on the computer longer than usual. What are you doing? Just handling some financial stuff. I didn't tell her yet. Didn't want her trying to talk me out of it or feeling guilty. This wasn't about her. It was about my parents finally experiencing actual consequences for treating people like disposable props in Brianna's life story. December rolled on. I sent a polite message to the family group text. Hannah and I have decided to start our own Christmas traditions this year. Hope everyone has a great holiday. Mom responded immediately. That's the spirit. So mature of you. Brianna sent a thumbs up emoji. Dad didn't respond at all. Hannah and I spent Christmas morning opening presents in our apartment, then volunteered at a soup kitchen for a few hours. Came home, made dinner together, watched movies. It was actually nice, quiet. No forced small talk with relatives I barely knew. No pretending to be interested in Brianna's latest life drama. But I was angry. The kind of deep, simmering anger that doesn't go away just because you're watching holiday movies. Around 9 p.m., my phone started blowing up. Photos from my parents' house. Brianna and Preston in front of the Christmas tree. Preston opening gifts. Dad carving a turkey. The whole family gathered around the table, with an empty spot where Hannah and I should have been. Mom sent a message to the group. Missing you tonight, but Preston is wonderful. Such a gentleman. Preston had made it exactly 19 days with my sister. 3 weeks. That's how long it took for him to get elevated above my wife in the family hierarchy. I turned off my phone and went to bed. January came. The property tax bill was due. I didn't pay it. My phone rang 6 times that first week. I didn't answer. Finally, Dad left a voicemail. Hey, just checking in. The property tax payment didn't go through automatically like it usually does. Not sure if there's a problem with the bank or something? Give me a call when you get a chance. I didn't call back. 2 weeks later, another voicemail. The county sent us a notice saying we're past due on property taxes. I thought you were handling that. Did something happen with the automatic payment? We're getting hit with late fees here. Still didn't call back. Week 3, Dad finally figured it out. The voicemail was different this time. Angry instead of confused. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but this isn't funny. We had an agreement. You can't just stop paying without telling us. Call me back immediately. I texted him. No agreement. I was helping you out. Now I'm not. He called back within 30 seconds. I let it ring. The texts started coming. We need to talk about this like adults. Your mother is very upset. This is completely irresponsible. At least give us warning before you just abandon your commitments. That last one made me laugh. Abandoning commitments. Rich, coming from people who'd uninvited us from Christmas. February brought more urgent messages. The county had added penalties, and now they owed over $7,000. They were panicking. The county didn't mess around with delinquent property taxes. Every month that passed added more penalties and interest. What started as a $6,000 bill had ballooned to over $7,000 in just 2 months. And it would keep growing until they paid, or until the county foreclosed. Missouri takes property tax collection seriously. The county treasurer's office has a specific process they follow, and they follow it precisely. First comes the friendly reminder, then the official notice, then the penalties start accruing, then the lien gets filed, then comes the notice of tax sale. Every step documented, every deadline clear. No exceptions made for sob stories about family drama or fixed incomes. My parents weren't used to dealing with government agencies that didn't care about their explanations. They were used to me, someone they could guilt, manipulate, or simply outlast until I gave in. The county treasurer's office wasn't interested in any of that. Mom called from Dad's phone, probably thinking I wouldn't recognize the number. I answered. Finally, she said. We've been trying to reach you for weeks. I know. What's going on with the property taxes? The county is threatening a tax lien. Sounds like you should pay them then. Long silence. What? Your property taxes. You should probably pay them before the county puts a lien on your house. But you always pay them. I used to. Past tense. Not anymore. You can't just stop. We're counting on you. That phrase, counting on you, crystallized everything wrong with our relationship. They weren't grateful for my help. They'd come to expect it, to count on it, to build their entire financial plan around the assumption that I'd always bail them out. They'd never even considered what would happen if I stopped, because the possibility that I'd set a boundary had never occurred to them. Like you counted on us being at Christmas? Oh wait, no. You uninvited us for Brianna's boyfriend. More silence. Then, that's what this is about? You're punishing us over a simple space issue? Space issue, right. The space issue where there wasn't room for my wife of 8 years, but plenty of room for some guy Brianna had known for 2 weeks. Preston is a lovely young man. She said this like it mattered. Like Preston's personal qualities had any relevance to the situation. He could have been the most charming, successful, wonderful person on earth, and it still wouldn't justify excluding Hannah. I don't care if he's the Pope. He's a stranger. Hannah is family. Or she's supposed to be. She is family. But sometimes we have to make difficult choices about accommodations. We didn't think you'd be so sensitive about it. Sensitive. Got it. Well, here's me being insensitive. Pay your own property taxes from now on. I'm done subsidizing your retirement. I hung up before she could respond. Hannah overheard the conversation. She'd been in the kitchen pretending not to listen, but our apartment is small. You stopped paying their taxes because of Christmas? She asked quietly. I stopped paying their taxes because they treated you like garbage. Christmas was just when it became impossible to ignore. You didn't have to do that for me. I didn't do it for you. I did it for us. And because I'm tired of being their emergency fund while they treat me like an inconvenience. She didn't argue, just came over and hugged me. March arrived with increasingly desperate messages. The tax bill was now over $8,000 with penalties and interest. The county had officially placed a lien on the property. My parents were drowning in letters and notices. Brianna finally got involved, sending me this long text about family loyalty and how I was being cruel over a misunderstanding. When I asked if she'd be willing to help with the property taxes, she said her finances were really tight right now. Right. Too tight to help our parents, but loose enough for that weekend trip to Nashville she just posted about. I sent her the receipts. Every payment I'd made over 3 years. $42,000 in total. This is what I contributed to mom and dad's property taxes while you were making car payments on a luxury vehicle. You're welcome. She didn't respond. April brought the nuclear option. A letter from the county about a potential tax sale. If the delinquent taxes weren't paid within 90 days, the property would go to auction. Dad called from a different number. Probably borrowed someone's phone. I answered out of curiosity. Are you really going to let us lose our house? He asked. No greeting, no pleasantries. I'm not doing anything. The county is handling it according to standard procedures. You know what I mean. You have the money. You've been paying these taxes for years. Why stop now? Because I finally realized I was funding a retirement for people who don't actually value me or my wife. That's not true. We love you. Funny way of showing it. Uninviting us from Christmas. Never saying thank you for the 42 grand I've paid. Treating Hannah like she's optional while rolling out the red carpet for Brianna's temporary boyfriend. Preston is her boyfriend. What were we supposed to do? Not invite him. You were supposed to not uninvite us. There was plenty of room. You chose to exclude us. Now I'm choosing to exclude myself from your financial problems. This is extortion. No, this is consequences. You wanted me to understand that Hannah and I are lower priority than a stranger? Message received. Now you get to understand that your financial crisis is lower priority than my wife's emotional well-being. The county doesn't care about family drama. They're just going to take our house. I know. That's kind of the point. They don't care about drama, they care about taxes. Just like I don't care about your excuses anymore. I care about my wife. He hung up on me. May came with more frantic calls that I ignored. My aunt called to lecture me about elder abuse and family responsibility. I reminded her that she and uncle had taken the guest room, forcing my parents to invent a space crisis. She hung up too. The funny thing about standing your ground is how quickly people decide you're the villain. Not the people who created the problem, the person who stopped fixing it. June arrived with the point of no return. The county scheduled the tax sale for July 15th. If my parents didn't come up with $10,000 by then, their house would be auctioned off. Tax sales in Missouri follow a specific process. The county publishes a list of properties with delinquent taxes in the local newspaper for 3 consecutive weeks. Real estate investors and speculators watch these lists carefully, looking for opportunities to buy properties for pennies on the dollar. Houses that families have lived in for years can get snatched up by strangers who see them as nothing more than investment opportunities. My parents' house would be on that list. Their address, their names, the amount owed, all published for anyone to see. Their neighbors would know. Their friends would know. The whole small town would know that they'd let their property taxes go unpaid to the point where the county was taking action. The shame of it probably bothered my parents almost as much as the financial crisis. They'd spent their whole retirement building this image of comfortable middle-class stability. They'd joined the right social clubs, attended community events, made friends with other retirees who seemed to have their finances in order. Now everyone would see the truth. They were broke and had been relying on their son to subsidize their lifestyle. My parents sold mom's jewelry, borrowed money from friends. Dad picked up a part-time job at the hardware store. Brianna finally contributed $1,000, which she made sure to announce publicly so everyone would know what a good daughter she was. The Facebook post Brianna made about her contribution was classic her. A long caption about the importance of family, how we all need to support each other in hard times, and how she was blessed to be able to help my parents in their time of need. She made it sound like she was the hero of the story, not someone contributing a fraction of what I'd already paid over the years. The comments were full of people praising her generosity and calling her an amazing daughter. Nobody knew the full story. They came up with $8,000, Still 2,000 short. July 10th, 5 days before the sale, Mom called from yet another number. I answered because Hannah was sitting next to me. Please, Mom said. She was crying. I'm begging you. We're $2,000 short. We'll lose everything. Our house, our retirement, everything we worked for. You should have thought of that before Christmas. This is insane. You're going to let us become homeless over Christmas dinner? Not over dinner. Over 30 years of putting Brianna first, treating Hannah like she's disposable, and taking me for granted. The Christmas thing was just the final straw. We've apologized. What more do you want? Have you? Because I don't remember getting an apology. I remember getting excuses and justifications and lectures about how I'm being unreasonable. Silence. She was cornered and knew it. I'm sorry, she finally said. We should have included Hannah. It was wrong. Keep going. We took you for granted. Took your help for granted. We should have been more grateful for all you've done. And we prioritized Brianna over you. Made you feel less important. That wasn't right. Getting warmer. What about Hannah specifically? Long pause. We treated Hannah poorly. Excluded her when she'd been nothing but kind to us. Made her feel like she wasn't really family. There it is. Was that so hard? So you'll help us? Pay the last 2,000? No. What? But I apologized. You apologized because you're about to lose your house, not because you actually feel bad. That's not the same thing. We do feel bad. What do you want from us? I want you to experience the consequences of your choices. I want you to understand that actions have results. I want you to know what it feels like when family treats you like you're expendable. This is cruel. Maybe, but it's also fair. I hung up. Hannah was quiet for a minute. Then she asked, Are you really going to let them lose their house? Yes, that's a lot. It is. But so was 3 years of $42,000 and 8 years of you being treated like a second-class family member. She thought about it. What if we paid half? $1,000. Enough to help, but not enough to completely bail them out? I looked at her. This woman who'd been excluded from Christmas was suggesting we throw my parents a lifeline. Why would we do that? Because I don't actually want them to be homeless. I want them to learn their lesson, but homelessness seems extreme. Plus, if they have to scramble for the last 1,000, they'll still feel the pressure. She had a point. The goal wasn't to destroy them. It was to make them understand consequences. You're sure? I'm sure. 1,000. Final offer. They cover the rest. July 14th, I sent a text to the family group. Hannah and I will contribute $1,000 to the property taxes. You're responsible for the remaining 1,000. Payment must be received by the county by 4 p.m. tomorrow or the offer expires. Mom called immediately. Thank you. Thank you so much. But we don't have the other 1,000. We've exhausted every option. Then I guess you'd better figure something out. You've got 24 hours. Where are we supposed to get $1,000 in one day? Same place you got the 8,000 you already raised. Get creative. Please, can't you just cover the whole thing? For old time's sake? Old time's sake? When you used 42,000 of my money and uninvited my wife from Christmas? Those old times? She went quiet. 24 hours, I repeated. Figure it out. I hung up and transferred $1,000 to the county with a note that it was partial payment toward my parents' delinquent taxes. The next 24 hours were chaos, according to my aunt, who later filled me in. My parents called everyone they knew begging for money. Tried to get a payday loan, but their credit was terrible. Dad worked a double shift at the hardware store and made $80. Brianna, in a rare moment of actually helping, threw another $500 toward the cause. Still left them $400 short. At 2 p.m. on July 15th, 3 hours before the deadline, my parents were still scrambling. They'd sold Dad's golf clubs, Mom's rarely used exercise bike, and some furniture on Facebook Marketplace. They showed up at the county office at 3:47 p.m. with $10,000 in a combination of cash, money orders, and certified checks from 6 different sources. The clerk barely got it processed before the 4 o'clock deadline. Their house was saved. Barely. That evening, I got a text from Dad. We made it. No thanks to you. I responded, You're welcome for the $1,000, and the $42,000 before that, and for the lesson in consequences. He didn't reply. August brought a cold war in my family. Nobody was talking to me except for a few cousins who privately admitted I had a point. My parents were speaking to Hannah and me, but barely. Brianna posted a vague status about toxic family members who use money to manipulate people. The irony was perfect. September rolled around with my dad's birthday. Usually we'd visit, bring gifts, make a thing of it. This year, nothing. I sent a card. Just a card, no money, no gift. It said, Hope you have a good birthday. Glad you still have a house to celebrate it in. Passive-aggressive? Absolutely. But cathartic. October brought the real surprise. Preston and Brianna broke up. Shocker. Turns out he was actually engaged to someone else and using Brianna as a side piece. The finance job was working the desk at a car rental place. The Porsche was leased and behind on payments. Brianna posted a long rant about men who lie in relationships that aren't what they seem. The comments were supportive, everyone telling her she deserved better. I resisted the urge to comment. Remember when Mom and Dad uninvited me from Christmas to impress this guy? Hannah reminded me that would be cruel. She was right. Didn't stop me from thinking it, though. November arrived with an unexpected development. Mom called from her actual phone number. I want to talk, she said. Actually talk. Not argue, not make excuses. Just listen and talk. Okay. We met at a diner halfway between our place and theirs. Just the two of us. She looked older than I remembered. More gray hair, more lines around her eyes. Stress will do that. I've been thinking about everything, she started. Not just the property taxes, but all of it. How we treated you. How we treated Hannah. The Christmas thing, especially. I didn't interrupt. Let her talk. Your father and I got caught up in Brianna's drama. She's our baby, and she's had such a hard time with relationships. Every time she brings someone new around, we get excited that maybe this time will be different, that maybe she'll finally find someone good. So you excluded us to support her relationship? We thought it would help her feel supported. Preston seemed so nice on paper. Good job, well-dressed, polite. We wanted to show Brianna we approved. By disapproving of Hannah? She winced. It wasn't about Hannah. We love Hannah. Your actions said otherwise. She nodded slowly. You're right. We acted like Hannah was optional, like she could just be uninvited, and it wouldn't matter because she's already secure in the family. But that's not how it works, is it? No. We took you for granted too. You paid our property taxes for 3 years, and we treated it like it was just something you did. Like it was your responsibility instead of an enormous gift. We never even really thanked you. Nope. And when you stopped helping, instead of asking ourselves why, we just got angry. Like you were failing some obligation instead of finally setting a boundary. She got it. Actually understood what happened. That was unexpected. What changed? I asked. Almost losing our house changed a lot. But mostly it was your aunt saying something at a family gathering. She said we'd pushed away our reliable son because we were too busy chasing after our unstable daughter. That stung, but it was true. We sat in silence for a minute. I'm sorry, she said. Really sorry. Not because I want something from you, but because we hurt you and Hannah. You both deserved so much better. Yeah, we did. I can't undo the Christmas thing. Can't take back the years of taking you for granted. But I want to try to do better going forward, if you'll let us. I thought about it. Thought about Hannah, and how she'd never asked me to cut my parents off, just to stand up for her. Thought about how she'd suggested we contribute that last $1,000 even after everything. Here's the deal, I said. You want a relationship going forward? Great, but it's based on actual respect, not obligation. That means Hannah gets treated like a daughter, not a guest. That means no more financial assistance from us. You're adults. Figure out your own budget. And that means if you ever try to exclude us for one of Brianna's boyfriends again, we're done. Permanently. She nodded. That's fair. More than fair, honestly. And you owe Hannah an apology. A real one. In person. I know. I'll call her this week. We finished our coffee and went our separate ways. I wasn't sure if this was a real turning point or just temporary guilt, but time would tell. When I got home, I told Hannah about the conversation. She listened carefully. Do you believe her? She asked. I want to, but people don't really change. They just get better at managing their worst impulses. So what do? We give them a chance. One chance. And if they screw it up, we walk away with no guilt. She agreed. Mom called Hannah 3 days later. They talked for over an hour. Hannah didn't tell me everything they discussed, but she said Mom cried and apologized and meant it. That was enough. December came around again. The Christmas question hung in the air for weeks. Finally, early in the month, Mom called. We'd love to have you both for Christmas this year, if you're willing to come. No weird space issues, no boyfriend drama, just family. What about Brianna? I asked. Brianna will be there. She's processing everything, but she knows you and Hannah are coming and she's okay with it. And the guest room is yours. We already set it up. Hannah and I discussed it, decided to go, but with an escape plan. Booked a hotel room as backup in case things got weird. Christmas Day arrived. We drove to my parents' house with gifts and low expectations. Walked in to find Mom and Dad waiting at the door. Welcome, Mom said, hugging Hannah first. We're so glad you're here. The house was decorated normally. No shrine to Preston's memory. Brianna was there, but subdued. She gave us both awkward hugs and mumbled something about being sorry. Dinner was fine. Conversation stayed light. Nobody brought up property taxes or the tax sale or the whole mess from the previous year. Just normal family stuff. Dad's hardware store stories. Mom's book club drama. My work projects. The guest room had fresh sheets, towels, and a little basket of toiletries. The kind of touches that show someone actually thought about your comfort. After dinner, we were doing dishes when Dad pulled me aside. I know I was defensive before. About the money, about all of it. But you were right. We took you for granted. Used you like an ATM and treated you like an obligation instead of our son. Yeah, your mother and I adjusted our budget. Cut back on things we didn't need. We can handle the property taxes ourselves now. You don't need to worry about that anymore. Good. And Hannah is welcome here anytime. I mean that. She's our daughter-in-law. Should have been treating her like that from the start. Appreciate you saying that. He clapped me on the shoulder and went back to his coffee. Not a Hollywood moment of reconciliation, but real enough. That night, lying in the guest room with Hannah, I thought about everything that had happened. The anger, the betrayal, the tax lien, the desperate scramble. All of it because my parents forgot that family isn't about obligations and hierarchies. It's about showing up for the people who show up for you. Think they learned their lesson? Hannah whispered. Time will tell, but at least they're trying. That's something. Yeah, it's something. We went back home the next morning. The drive was quiet but comfortable. No anger, no resentment. Just peace. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Thank you for giving us another chance. We won't waste it. I responded, see you soon. And that was it. No dramatic ending, no perfect resolution. Just a family that almost destroyed itself over property taxes and Christmas seating arrangements, then slowly found its way back to something resembling functional. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks. My parents refused to pay $22,000 for my emergency surgery. Now they want me to give $45,000 for my sister's dream wedding. I said no, and all hell broke loose. Hey Reddit, buckle up because this is going to be a wild ride through years of family dysfunction, medical emergencies, and the kind of entitlement that would make your head spin. I'm talking golden child syndrome on steroids, the kind where one kid gets everything, while the other gets kicked to the curb when they need help most. I'm Jake, 32 male, and I've spent most of my life being the invisible son, while my sister Vanessa, 28 female, got treated like royalty. But the real breaking point? That came when I almost died and my parents told me I was on my own. Fast forward 4 years, and now they want me to bankroll her fairy tale wedding. Let me explain how we got here, because context matters. This isn't just about one incident or one request for money. This is about 3 decades of systematic favoritism that culminated in them literally telling me to figure out my own medical crisis while I was fighting for my life in a hospital bed. The foundation of this dysfunction was laid early and reinforced constantly throughout my childhood and into adulthood. I grew up in what looked like a normal suburban family from the outside. Dad works in pharmaceutical sales, pulling in around $90,000 a year. Mom's a dental hygienist making another $50,000 part-time. Not rich, but definitely comfortable upper-middle-class territory. 3-bedroom house in a decent neighborhood with good schools, 2 cars in the driveway, annual vacations to Florida or the Carolinas. Standard American suburban setup that looked picture-perfect to outsiders. But inside that house? Different story entirely. The dysfunction ran deep and started early. From the moment Vanessa was born when I was 4, the dynamic shifted hard. She was the precious baby girl, the daughter my mom had always wanted after having a boy first. Dad immediately had his princess to spoil. Me? I became the practice kid, the rough draft they'd already figured out their parenting mistakes on. The favoritism wasn't subtle at all. When I was in Little League playing third base, my parents would show up to maybe half my games, always with some excuse about being tired from work or having other obligations. I'd scan the bleachers during warm-ups, hoping to see them, and half the time they just wouldn't be there. The other parents noticed. My coach noticed. I pretended it didn't bother me, but it did. When Vanessa started dance classes at age 5, my parents never missed a single recital. Not one. They'd sit in the front row with flowers and a professional camera, treating every performance like she was starring on Broadway. They'd take her out for fancy dinners afterward to celebrate. I'd usually stay home with a babysitter or later by myself, eating whatever leftovers were in the fridge. Christmas mornings were a joke and became a source of genuine anxiety for me every December. I'd get practical gifts, clothes I needed for school, a new backpack, maybe a book or two if I was lucky. Sometimes I wouldn't even get things I actually wanted, just things they decided I should have. A dictionary one year, socks and underwear another year. Vanessa would have a mountain of presents under the tree. Dolls, games, art supplies, the latest tech gadgets, a new bike one year, a complete bedroom makeover another year, including new furniture, paint, and decorations. The inequality was so obvious that even extended family members would comment on it during holiday gatherings. But my parents would just laugh it off with dismissive comments like, well, girls need more things than boys, or Jake's just not materialistic like that. They convinced themselves I preferred it this way, that I was naturally more minimalist and didn't care about gifts. In reality, I just learned early that showing disappointment made things worse. When I wanted to join the debate team in high school, genuinely excited about something for the first time in years, my parents said the $25 registration fee was too expensive and I should focus on my studies instead. They literally told me we couldn't afford $25. That same year, they dropped $900 on a custom-made dress for Vanessa's 8th grade graduation. 8th grade. She was 13. I found the receipt on the kitchen counter and just stared at it in disbelief. $900 for a dress she'd wear once. But we couldn't afford $25 for something I was passionate about. The message was crystal clear from early on. Vanessa mattered, I didn't. She was the investment worthy of time, money, and attention. I was the expense to be minimized. But I adapted, became self-sufficient out of necessity. Got my first real job at 14 washing dishes at a local diner called Mel's. The owner was this gruff old guy who paid cash and didn't ask too many questions about my age. I'd work Friday nights and weekend mornings, coming home smelling like grease and dish soap, hands raw from hot water. Saved every penny in a shoebox under my bed at first, then opened my own savings account when I turned 15. Paid for my own car insurance when I turned 16, after passing the test in my driver's ed car. Bought my own used Honda Civic with money I'd earned myself. Found it on Craigslist for $3,000, negotiated down to $2,700, paid cash. My parents praised this as me being responsible and independent, while simultaneously paying for Vanessa's brand new Volkswagen Jetta when she got her license 2 years later. She totaled it 6 months after getting it by rear-ending someone while texting. They bought her another one. I worked my way through community college, taking general education requirements while living at home and commuting, then transferred to State University for my engineering degree, taking out student loans because my parents said they couldn't afford to help with tuition. The loans totaled $42,000 by the time I graduated. I signed those promissory notes myself, watching the debt pile up semester after semester. Found out years later they'd actually set up a college fund when I was born. My grandparents had contributed to it, so had some aunts and uncles at birthdays and holidays. Should have had at least $30,000 in there by the time I turned 18. They'd emptied it to pay for Vanessa's private high school tuition when she decided public school wasn't challenging enough. Really, it was because her friends were going to this expensive prep school, and she didn't want to be left out. They paid $18,000 a year for 3 years. $54,000 total that should have been mine, spent on Vanessa's social life. When I found out about this during an argument years later, my mom's justification was that I was doing fine at public school, and Vanessa needed the academic challenge. Vanessa graduated from that expensive prep school with a 2.8 GPA, and no college acceptances except the local community college. By the time I graduated with my degree in civil engineering, I'd learned to expect nothing from them. I was genuinely surprised when they showed up to my graduation ceremony, though they left immediately after my name was called because they had to drive Vanessa to some dance competition 3 hours away. Couldn't even stay for the reception or take a single photo with me in my cap and gown. I landed a good job with a construction engineering firm right out of college. Started at $52,000 a year, which felt like a fortune after years of scraping by on minimum wage and ramen noodles. The work was hard. Long hours on construction sites, dealing with contractors and inspectors, learning to read blueprints and manage budgets. But I was good at it. Really good. Worked hard, showed up early, stayed late, volunteered for the difficult projects nobody else wanted. Got promoted twice in 4 years, and by age 28, I was making $78,000 as a project manager, overseeing commercial building projects worth millions of dollars. Bought my own condo when I was 26. Saved up a down payment over 3 years, qualified for the mortgage on my own, furnished it myself from Craigslist and IKEA. Started building actual savings for the first time in my life, putting away 10% of every paycheck religiously. Everything I had, I'd earned. Nothing was handed to me, nothing was given. Every single thing I owned came from my own work and sacrifice. Meanwhile, Vanessa bounced between part-time jobs and creative pursuits like a pinball. Tried being a photographer for 6 months, bought $3,000 worth of equipment on my parents' credit card, took maybe 20 paid photo sessions total before deciding it wasn't her passion, then became a social media manager for a few months, which seemed to consist mostly of posting on Instagram and calling it work. Then she got into making artisan candles, convinced she'd found her calling. My parents funded a whole setup in their basement, professional equipment, supplies, even a website. She made about 12 candles before getting bored, then decided she wanted to be a yoga instructor, so my parents paid for her certification course in California. $1,500 plus airfare and accommodation for the month-long intensive training. None of it stuck. None of it made real money. Every venture failed within months, sometimes weeks. But my parents funded every pivot, every new interest, every business venture that inevitably crashed and burned. They called it supporting her journey of self-discovery. I called it enabling a perpetual teenager. She lived rent-free in their finished basement apartment that they'd renovated specifically for her. 900 square feet with a full kitchen, bathroom, separate entrance. Basically an apartment that would rent for $1,200 a month anywhere else. Drove the car they'd bought her after she totaled the first one. Used the credit card they paid off every month without question. At 26 years old, she'd never paid a utility bill, never worried about health insurance, never experienced the anxiety of wondering if you'd have enough money to cover an unexpected expense. Never had that moment of panic when your check engine light comes on and you have to choose between fixing your car and eating properly for the next 2 weeks. The resentment built slowly over years. I'd be lying if I said it didn't bother me. Watching your parents bend over backwards for one kid while treating the other like an afterthought does something to you psychologically. It shapes how you see yourself, how you interact with the world, how you understand your worth. But I kept my mouth shut, maintained a polite distance, showed up for major holidays and family dinners when expected. I'd sit at their dining table making small talk, watching them fawn over Vanessa's latest failed business idea while barely acknowledging my actual career success. That was my strategy for years. Stay civil, don't rock the boat, accept that this was just how our family worked. I had my own life now, my own success, my own apartment. I didn't need their approval or support anymore. I'd learned to live without it. Then came the incident that changed everything, and finally showed me who they really were. 4 years ago, I started having stomach pain. Not terrible at first, just this persistent ache that wouldn't go away no matter what I did. Tried ignoring it for a couple weeks, figured it was stress from a difficult project at work or something I ate that didn't agree with me. Took some antacids, tried eating bland foods, hoped it would resolve on its own, but it kept getting worse. Sharp pains that would double me over at random times. Nausea that made eating difficult. Fever that came and went, leaving me sweating through my sheets at night. Lost about 8 pounds in 2 weeks because I couldn't keep much food down. Finally went to urgent care on a Saturday morning, when the pain got so bad I couldn't stand up straight. Spent 20 minutes hunched over the steering wheel in the parking lot, building up the courage to actually walk inside. The intake nurse took one look at my face and moved me to the front of the line. They took my vitals, asked a bunch of questions about my symptoms, did some quick preliminary tests. The doctor came in looking concerned, pressed on different areas of my abdomen while I tried not to scream. Then he said words that made my blood run cold. "You need to get to the emergency room right now. I'm calling ahead to let them know you're coming. This could be your appendix, and if it is, it might have already ruptured." I drove myself to the ER because I lived alone and didn't want to bother friends on a Saturday morning with what might be nothing. In retrospect, incredibly stupid decision. I was in so much pain I could barely focus on the road, hunched over the steering wheel, taking side streets because I didn't trust myself on the highway. Spent 6 hours in the ER waiting room because it was absolutely packed. Apparently, Saturday mornings bring out everyone who'd been putting off medical care all week. I sat there in a plastic chair, sweating and shaking, watching people come and go, while my pain escalated from terrible to unbearable. By the time they got me into a room and did a CT scan, the surgeon came in with his face set in that expression doctors get when they're about to tell you something bad. He explained that my appendix had definitely ruptured, and I had peritonitis. For anyone who doesn't know medical speak, that means infection spreading through my abdominal cavity. Life-threatening if not treated immediately. People die from this. They rushed me into emergency surgery within an hour. I barely had time to sign consent forms, barely processed what was happening. 1 minute I'm in the ER bay. The next, I'm being wheeled down hallways on a gurney while ceiling lights flash past overhead. Then, they're putting a mask over my face and telling me to count backward from 10. Woke up hours later feeling like I'd been hit by a truck, run over again for good measure, then maybe hit one more time just to be sure. Tubes coming out of my arms for IV medications, a drain tube in my side that looked medieval and hurt worse than anything I'd experienced. Every breath felt like knives in my abdomen. The surgeon came by during evening rounds and explained in detail just how bad it had been. They'd had to do extensive cleaning of my abdominal cavity because the infection had spread pretty far. The appendix had been ruptured for at least 48 hours, based on what they found. Another day or two, and I might not have made it. I'd be in the hospital for at least 5 to 7 days on IV antibiotics, possibly longer if complications developed. Then weeks of recovery at home before I could even think about returning to work. No lifting, no driving for at least 2 weeks, limited mobility, high risk of infection at the surgical sites. That's when reality hit me like a second truck. The money. I had health insurance through my job. It was actually pretty decent coverage, all things considered. But I'd chosen a high deductible plan because the premiums were lower, and I was young and healthy, and never went to the doctor. The kind of decision you make when you're trying to save money and can't imagine ever needing serious medical care. The deductible was $22,000. $22,000. The number was so large it didn't even seem real at first. I asked the financial counselor to repeat it 3 times, convinced I'd misheard. But no, that was the amount. $22,000 I'd be personally responsible for before my insurance would cover a single dollar. The hospital billing department was very sympathetic but very clear about the situation. I'd be responsible for that amount regardless of anything else. They could set up a payment plan, work with me on the billing, but the money was owed. Period. That's how insurance works when you pick the cheap plan. I was 28 years old. I'd been saving aggressively for 3 years, building up an emergency fund like all the personal finance blogs said you should. Had about $14,000 in savings that I'd been so proud of. Money that had taken real sacrifice to accumulate. Skipping social events, brown bagging lunch every day, driving my old Honda instead of upgrading, saying no to vacations with friends. This would wipe that out completely and leave me $8,000 in debt on top of it. And I'd be out of work for at least a month, maybe more, meaning reduced income right when I needed it most. Short-term disability would only cover 60% of my salary. From my hospital bed on day 2, still hooked up to IV antibiotics and feeling like garbage, I called my parents, hands shaking as I dialed their number, explained the situation as clearly as I could through the pain medication fog, told them about the surgery, the complications, the extended hospital stay, the unexpected massive medical bills. I wasn't even asking for the full amount, just whatever they could help with. Even $5,000 would make an enormous difference. I'd pay them back over time with interest if they wanted. Just needed some help to avoid complete financial ruin. My dad's response after a long pause, "That's rough. Have you looked into the hospital's financial assistance programs?" I had. I made too much to qualify. $78,000 a year put me well above the threshold. I explained this and asked again if there was any way they could help me out. Even just a loan I'd pay back over time with a written agreement and everything. Another long pause. Then Mom got on the phone with that particular tone of voice that meant she was about to say something she'd rehearsed. "Jake, we'd love to help, but we just don't have that kind of money lying around right now. Maybe you should have gotten better insurance when you had the chance. This is part of being an adult, dealing with unexpected expenses and planning ahead for emergencies." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was in a hospital bed, recovering from emergency surgery that had literally saved my life, and they were giving me a lecture about insurance choices and financial planning like I was a child who'd spent his allowance unwisely. "You helped Vanessa with her car down payment," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "That was $11,000 last year. That was different. She needed reliable transportation to get to work. I need to not be in crushing medical debt from life-saving surgery. Well, maybe if you'd been more careful about your health." That's when I realized they were actually trying to blame me for getting sick. Like I'd chosen to have my appendix rupture. Like this was some lifestyle choice I'd made, and now had to deal with the consequences. Dad took the phone back, voice firm. "Look, we're sorry you're going through this, but we can't just drop everything to bail you out. You have a good job. You're smart. You'll figure it out. That's what we raised you to do. Be independent and handle your own problems. Handle your own problems." Those words hit me like physical blows. This wasn't a problem I'd created. This was a medical emergency that happened to me through no fault of my own. And they were treating it like I'd made a bad financial decision and now needed to learn a lesson. "Can you at least come visit?" I asked, hating how pathetic I sounded. We'll try to get by this week, Mom said. But your dad has a big presentation Wednesday, and I've got that charity event on Thursday. They visited me once during my entire week-long hospital stay. Showed up on Saturday afternoon, stayed for maybe 40 minutes. Spent most of that time talking about how stressed Vanessa was about her latest failed business venture, the candle thing that was already falling apart. Apparently, she was really struggling with it, and they were worried about her emotional state. I'm lying in a hospital bed with tubes coming out of me, facing financial ruin, and they're telling me how hard things are for Vanessa because her hobby business isn't working out. They didn't bring food even though hospital food is terrible. Didn't offer to help with anything when I got discharged. Didn't ask what they could do or how they could support me. Just checked the box of having visited their sick son and left. I watched them walk out of my hospital room and had this moment of crystal clarity. I was completely alone in this. Vanessa never came at all. Not once. Sent a text on day 3. Sorry you're sick. Hope you feel better soon. With a flower emoji. That was the extent of her concern for her brother, who was in the hospital fighting a potentially fatal infection. I spent that week lying in a hospital bed, watching nurses come and go, dealing with pain and discomfort, and the humiliation of needing help with basic functions. Facing down a financial catastrophe that would set me back years of careful saving, all while knowing my parents were perfectly capable of helping, but had chosen not to. They had the money. I knew they had it. They'd just spent $11,000 on Vanessa's car down payment without blinking. They were planning their annual vacation to Florida in a few months. Dad had recently bought himself new golf clubs. But helping their son during a medical emergency? Too much to ask. When I got discharged after 7 days, I took an Uber home because asking them for a ride felt pointless. Paid $42 from my rapidly dwindling bank account to get myself and my small bag of belongings back to my condo. The driver helped me up the stairs because I could barely walk. Spent the next month recovering alone in my condo, going to follow-up appointments by myself, dealing with insurance paperwork and hospital billing departments while still healing from major surgery. The surgical drains had to stay in for 2 weeks, and I had to manage them myself. Had to change my own bandages, monitor my own incisions for signs of infection, measure and record drainage output like I was my own nurse. My coworker Randy found out what happened and organized a meal train where people from the office brought me food for 2 weeks. These were people I barely knew outside of work, but they showed up anyway. Brought me groceries, picked up prescriptions, sat with me for an hour just to provide some human contact. My buddy from college, Tim, drove over from 2 hours away every few days to check on me and help with things I couldn't do myself. He'd take out my trash, help me shower without getting the bandages wet, make sure I was taking my medications correctly. Showed up without being asked, never complained about the drive. My parents called twice during that entire month. Both times, to tell me about something happening with Vanessa. First call was about her deciding to close down the candle business. They wanted to know if I wanted to buy any of the leftover supplies at cost. Second call was about her new idea to become a yoga instructor. Weren't they excited about this new direction for her? Neither call included asking how I was doing, if I needed anything, how my recovery was going. It was like my medical crisis had already been forgotten because it was inconvenient to think about. I paid off that medical debt over the next 3 years. $22,000, paid through automatic monthly withdrawals that left me constantly stressed about money. $611 a month for 36 months. Every single payment a reminder of the day my parents chose not to help me. Had to delay buying a new car when my Honda started having serious problems at 215,000 miles. Couldn't save for a house down payment like I'd planned. Put my entire life on hold to pay off debt from an emergency that wasn't my fault and that my parents could have helped with if they'd wanted to. During those 3 years, I watched them help Vanessa with multiple expensive things. Every time I heard about another bailout or funding for another failed venture, it felt like a knife twisting deeper into an old wound that never healed. The resentment during those years was intense. Every automatic payment that withdrew from my checking account felt like a reminder of their betrayal. Every time I saw my parents post on social media about helping Vanessa with something new, the anger built. But I kept silent, maintained minimal contact, told myself it would eventually be paid off, and I could move on. Finally, 3 years and 2 months after that surgery, I made the final payment. Watched my loan balance hit 0. Should have felt relief, but mostly I just felt angry. Angry at the time lost, the opportunities missed, the stress endured. All of it unnecessary if my parents had just helped their son during a medical emergency. The breaking point came 3 months ago, right when I'd finally started rebuilding my savings and feeling financially stable again. I got a call from Mom on a Tuesday afternoon, asking if I was free for Sunday dinner. Said they had exciting news to share and wanted the whole family there. Her voice had that particular cheerful quality that meant something big was happening. I figured Vanessa had gotten a new job or something, maybe actually found something that would stick for once. Agreed to come, marked it on my calendar, didn't think much of it beyond hoping dinner wouldn't be too awkward given our relationship. Showed up to their house that Sunday to find what I can only describe as a full celebration setup. There was a 2-tier cake from the expensive bakery downtown. Balloons everywhere, silver and gold ones that said, "Congratulations." A banner stretched across the dining room. And Vanessa sitting at the dining room table with her boyfriend Dylan, both of them grinning like they'd won the lottery, holding hands and practically glowing with excitement. They were engaged. I forced enthusiasm I didn't feel, offered congratulations that probably sounded hollow, made the expected small talk about how he proposed, and whether she was surprised. Dylan's a decent guy, works in IT making around $65,000, seems stable and mature, treats Vanessa well from what I can see. If she was happy, fine, whatever. Not my business. Then Dad stood up to make his announcement, tapping his glass with a fork, like we were at a formal event. "We are so excited to help Vanessa and Dylan start their life together," he began, voice full of emotion. "We've been planning this for months, saving and preparing for this day. We know how expensive weddings can be, how stressful it is for young couples just starting out. I had a sinking feeling about where this was going. So we're going to give them $45,000 toward their wedding and first year of marriage. Consider it our gift to help launch their future together. $45,000. The room spun a little. I gripped the edge of the dining table to steady myself. The same parents who couldn't spare $22,000 when I almost died were casually announcing they'd drop 45 grand on a wedding, more than double what they'd refused to help me with during a life-threatening medical emergency. "We're thinking a destination wedding," Vanessa gushed, leaning forward with excitement. "Maybe Italy or Greece or possibly the Amalfi Coast. Something really special and memorable that our friends will talk about for years. And the 45,000 will help with the ceremony, the honeymoon, and getting set up in a new apartment together." Mom was practically glowing with joy. "We've been saving specifically for Vanessa's wedding for years. We started a fund when she turned 18. We want her special day to be absolutely perfect, something she'll remember forever." That phrase, "saving for years," hit me like a physical blow. They'd been systematically saving money for Vanessa's hypothetical future wedding during the entire time I was drowning in medical debt from an actual life-threatening emergency. "That's very generous," I said, keeping my voice carefully neutral. "We're also hoping you'll contribute," Dad said, turning to look at me directly. "As her older brother, it would mean a lot to Vanessa if you helped make her dream wedding come true. We were thinking maybe you could chip in 20 or 25,000. You're doing really well with your career now." The room went completely silent. Everyone was looking at me expectantly. "Let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You want me to give Vanessa $20,000 to $25,000 for her wedding?" "It's what family does," Dad added. "We all pitch in to help each other during important life moments." Something inside me snapped. Important life moments. Like emergency surgery to save your life? The temperature in the room dropped about 40 degrees. "That was different," Dad said. "How? How exactly was that different? You had insurance. You had options. This is about family celebration, and I had insurance with a $22,000 deductible that wiped out my entire life savings and left me in debt for 3 years. And you told me to figure it out myself because I'm an adult who should handle my own problems." "Jake, this isn't the time or place," Mom started. "When is the time? When is it ever the right time to talk about how you've treated me versus how you treat Vanessa? You couldn't spare $22,000 when I was literally dying in a hospital bed, but you've got $45,000 ready to go for a party? A wedding isn't just a party," Vanessa said defensively. I turned to look at her directly. "You're right, it's not. But neither was life-saving surgery. And nobody organized a savings fund for that. Nobody made a cake. Nobody asked how they could help me survive." "You never asked for help," Mom said. "I literally called you from my hospital bed and asked for help. You told me to check for financial assistance programs and hung up." Dylan looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Smart guy. Dad's face was getting red. "We're not going to relitigate past decisions. The question is whether you're going to support your sister during this important time in her life, or whether you're going to be selfish." My answer is no. Vanessa's face crumpled. "You're seriously going to ruin my wedding because you're still bitter about some medical bills from years ago? I'm not ruining anything. You've got $45,000 from Mom and Dad. Have whatever wedding you want with that. But I'm not contributing a dime." This is so typical of you, Vanessa said through tears. Always making everything about yourself. This is supposed to be my moment, and you're turning it into some drama about ancient history. Ancient history? I made my final payment 8 months ago. The debt from a medical emergency your parents could have helped with, but chose not to. Mom tried the guilt trip. We raised you better than this. Family helps family. You're right, family does help family. But apparently that only applies when it's Vanessa who needs help. I stood up and grabbed my jacket. Where are you going? Dad demanded. Home. Congratulations on the engagement, Vanessa. I hope you have a great wedding. But pay for it yourselves. I left before anyone could respond. Drove home with my hands shaking on the steering wheel, adrenaline pumping through my system. Got home and immediately texted Tim. You won't believe what just happened. His response came fast. Come over, bring details. The fallout started the next morning. Mom called at 6:30 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. By noon, I had 17 missed calls and texts escalating from, we need to talk, to, you're being incredibly selfish, to, how can you do this to your sister? Dad's messages were shorter and angrier. Vanessa sent a long emotional text about how I was abandoning her during the most important time of her life. I didn't respond to any of them. My Aunt Carolyn called Friday. Mom's older sister, usually pretty reasonable. Your mother called me very upset, she started. I bet she did. I gave her the full story. The $22,000 in medical debt, years of favoritism, the $45,000 for Vanessa's wedding, the request for another $25,000 on top of that. Long silence. I had no idea about the surgery situation, Carolyn finally said. Your mother never mentioned it. They didn't tell anyone. This is beyond favoritism. This is cruel. Hearing someone in my family finally acknowledge what I'd experienced felt validating. I'm not giving them money for a wedding, I said. You're not the bad guy. Don't let them guilt you. The pressure campaign continued for weeks. They tried every manipulation tactic. Then they escalated. 3 weeks later, I got a message from Vanessa's friend. She'd posted in a wedding planning group about her selfish brother. I screenshot the thread and sent it to Vanessa. Really? You're putting our family business on social media? Her response, maybe if you're getting called out by everyone, you'll realize how wrong you are. That's when I decided to take control. I called my parents and told them we needed to meet. One time only. Neutral location, a coffee shop near their house. Showed up Saturday morning with a folder full of documents. Sat down across from them. I'm going to say this once, I started. I'm not giving Vanessa money for her wedding. Not $25,000, not $500. Nothing. Jake, Mom started. I held up my hand. You raised me to be independent and handle my own problems. Those are your exact words. So that's what I'm doing. This is different, Dad said. No, it's not. You taught me that family doesn't bail each other out. I learned that lesson well. I pulled out my hospital bills. $22,000 in medical debt. I paid it off over 3 years while you funded Vanessa's failed ventures. Next document. The list of everything they'd given Vanessa. Conservative estimate? $95,000 to Vanessa since she turned 18. In that same time, 0 to me. Their faces went pale. Here's what's happening. I'm not contributing to the wedding. I'm not coming either. And moving forward, I'm treating you exactly how you treated me, with polite distance and 0 support. You're cutting us off? Mom asked. No. You cut me off 4 years ago. I'm just accepting that reality. This is ridiculous, Dad said. You're throwing away your family over money. No, you chose money over me when I needed you. I'm just respecting that choice. I stood up and left the folder. That's documentation of what you've spent on Vanessa versus me. Keep it. Show people when they ask why I'm not at the wedding. Walked out feeling lighter than I had in years. The nuclear fallout was immediate. My parents told everyone I'd disowned the family. Extended family reached out, most taking their side initially. But something interesting happened. Carolyn shared my side with key family members, including Uncle Frank. He called, I'm disgusted. I had no idea they'd left you hanging. Several relatives had assumed my parents helped with medical bills. When they found out the truth, the narrative shifted. My cousin Melissa, a nurse, was horrified. They didn't help after emergency surgery? That's not just unsupportive, that's horrifying. The unified front cracked. Meanwhile, my life improved dramatically. Blocked their numbers. Set social media to private. Created boundaries I should have years ago. Work was going well. Another promotion and raise. Started dating someone. Took a vacation with Tim. Most relaxing week in years. 6 weeks later, I got an email from Dad. We need to talk. Didn't open it. Sent to spam. The wedding happened last month. From what Carolyn told me, it was nice but smaller than Vanessa wanted. Budget issues. The $45,000 wasn't stretching far. Tragic. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks. My stepkids said they only respect their real dad, mocked my late wife, and told my kids their father didn't matter. So I cut off every privilege I paid for, packed their stuff, and told their dad to come get them. No one dared talk back. Hey Reddit, I've been reading stories on here for years, but never thought I'd share one of my own. Let's just say blending families isn't as simple as people make it sound. I learned a lot about respect, boundaries, and what it really means to be a parent when things got messy. Really messy. So here's my story. I, Mark, 42 male, a dad to two amazing kids, Maya, 12 female, and Andrew, 9 male. Their mom, Sarah, passed away 4 years ago. Cancer. The kind that doesn't give you time to make sense of it. Losing her nearly broke me. But when you've got two kids who still need breakfast every morning, you don't get the luxury of falling apart for long. For a long time, it was just the three of us. I learned how to braid hair, pack lunches that didn't look like survival rations, and fake smiles when my daughter missed her mom too much to sleep. I didn't think I'd ever want another relationship, but then Tiffany came along. Tiffany was like a warm spring day after years of winter. She was kind, smart, and she got it. She was divorced, raising 2 kids of her own. Jason was 16, Chloe was 14. Both polite, both well-mannered when I met them. When we decided to move in together, I honestly thought we were going to nail this whole blended family thing. Maya and Andrew were thrilled. Maya talked nonstop about having a big sister to share secrets with, and Andrew couldn't wait to play video games with Jason. The morning we moved in, my son was bouncing around the living room yelling, "We finally have a full house!" He didn't mean it like the TV show. He meant it like his heart finally felt full again. The first week was picture perfect. Jason and Chloe were quiet but polite. They helped carry boxes, said thank you, and didn't complain once. I thought, this is it. This is what a second chance looks like. The first Friday night we had everyone together for dinner, I decided to cook. Nothing fancy, steak, potatoes, and corn on the cob. It smelled amazing, and even Tiffany said the kitchen felt like home. We all sat down, plates steaming, and for a few minutes, it was exactly how I'd imagined it. Laughter, small talk, Andrew telling an over-the-top story about a frog he found at school. Then Jason, between bites, leaned back in his chair and said, "My dad makes better steak. He seasons it right." The table went quiet. Tiffany shot him a glare, but he just kept chewing like nothing happened. I didn't raise my voice. I put my fork down and looked straight at him. "Good for your dad," I said calmly. "Maybe one day he can come teach me, but until then, this is what's on the table. You're welcome to eat it, or not." The kid blinked, like he wasn't expecting pushback. Chloe's fork froze midair. Andrew looked between us nervously. I smiled, not angry, just steady. "Eat up, son," I added. "It's gonna get cold." Tiffany tried to lighten the mood after that, talking about weekend plans. But I could tell Jason didn't like that I hadn't backed down. I didn't need him to like me, though. I needed him to respect me. After dinner, Maya and Chloe went upstairs to compare playlists, and Andrew started unpacking a small box he'd brought from his old room. It was labeled Mom. Inside were photos, a couple of letters, and a snow globe she'd given him before she got too sick to leave bed. He took out a framed photo of her and asked, "Dad, can I hang this up?" "Of course," I said. "She'd like that." He picked a spot on the hallway wall, right by the stairs, where everyone could see it. The photo was simple. Sarah sitting on the grass, laughing. Her hair was short from chemo, but her smile still outshined the sun. While Andrew was straightening the frame, Jason walked by with his phone in his hand and muttered, "Why keep old pictures up? Kinda weird." I stopped what I was doing and turned toward him. My voice was even, but it dropped an octave. "Because she mattered," I said. "And in this house, we respect people who mattered." He didn't say anything after that, just stared for a second, then walked off. Andrew went quiet too. I crouched down next to him and said, "Hey, you did good hanging it there. She'd be proud of you." He nodded and hugged me, the kind of quick, tight hug that hits harder than any words. I should have felt peace. For the first time in years, the house was full of life again. But there was this tiny crack somewhere in the foundation. Something small, almost invisible, but I could feel it. Still, I told myself it was just new family tension. We'd get past it. We had to. I didn't know then that some lessons come the hard way. I didn't know that respect, once you let it slide, never really comes back the same. 6 months after we all moved in together, the tone of the house changed. It wasn't one big fight or dramatic moment. It was small things piling up, like dust you don't notice until it's everywhere. Jason and Chloe, once polite and quiet, started acting like every rule was up for negotiation. If I told Jason to take the trash out, he'd look right at me and say, "I'll wait for Mom." If I asked Chloe to put her laundry in the basket, she'd nod and then not do it. But if Tiffany asked, suddenly everything got done. At first, I thought maybe I was imagining it. Blended families take time, right? But one afternoon, I came home from work and overheard something that stopped me cold. The kids were in the living room. Jason and Chloe were sitting on the couch, phones in hand, and Maya and Andrew were on the floor, building with Legos. Jason leaned forward and said, "You guys know you don't have to listen to him, right?" Chloe giggled. "Yeah, he's so strict. Our dad lets us stay up late and eat whatever we want." Andrew looked unsure. "But Dad said we have to—" Jason cut him off. "Your dad just likes bossing people around. You don't have to do everything he says." I stood there for a second behind the wall and felt my blood go cold. Then I stepped into the room. "Jason," I said evenly. "Say that again." He froze. Chloe's face went pale. Maya and Andrew turned around fast. "You heard me," I continued. "Go on. You were giving my kids parenting advice? Let's hear it." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "Let me make something real clear," I said, my voice steady but hard. "You two don't ever tell my kids they don't have to listen to me. You're not their parents, and you're not mine. This house has one set of rules, and everyone follows them. Understand?" Chloe nodded fast. Jason mumbled something like, "Yeah, fine." "Good," I said. "Then knock it off. Now." I didn't yell. I didn't need to. The way Jason's jaw tightened told me he hated that I called him out. That night, I told Tiffany what happened. She sighed and rubbed her temples like I'd told her the Wi-Fi was down. "They're just adjusting, Mark," she said. "It's a lot of change. You can't expect them to respect you overnight." 6 months is overnight? I asked. "They'll come around," she said softly. "Just give it time." I wanted to believe her, but something in my gut said she was wrong. The following weeks were full of little power plays. Jason would wait until Tiffany got home before doing anything I asked. Chloe would conveniently forget what I told her. Maya started testing me too, saying things like, "But Jason said it's fine if I skip chores." I'd just look at her and say, "Jason doesn't make the rules here, sweetheart." "I do." Then came the family trip. Tiffany had planned a weekend at the lake, a chance for all of us to bond. I loaded the car, packed snacks, made sure everyone had their swimsuits. Jason climbed into the passenger seat, earbuds already in, hood up. The first day went okay. The younger kids swam, Tiffany sunbathed, and Jason mostly sulked. But that evening, when we were grilling by the cabin, Jason started in again. "Mom, can we go home?" "This is boring," he said loudly. "Dad would have taken us somewhere fun. He doesn't make us do lame family stuff." The way he said "dad" made it clear who he meant and who he didn't. I kept flipping the burgers, pretending not to hear at first. But when Maya started looking at me like I'd done something wrong, I turned around. "Jason," I said, "you're welcome to sit in the car if family time is too hard for you. But while you're out here, you're going to be respectful. You got that?" He gave a fake laugh. "Whatever, man. You can't tell me what to do. You're not my dad." Tiffany jumped in before I could respond. "Jason, enough!" He threw his hands up. "What? I'm just saying—" "I said enough," she snapped. The rest of dinner was silent, except for the sound of bugs and the crackle of the fire. When we packed up to go home the next day, Jason didn't say a word to me the entire drive. When we pulled into the driveway, I told the kids to grab their bags. Maya and Andrew followed instructions right away. Chloe and Jason went straight upstairs like guests leaving a bad hotel. Tiffany and I stood in the kitchen afterward. She looked tired. I looked down. "Maybe this trip wasn't such a great idea," she said quietly. "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe it showed us what's actually going on." She didn't answer. That night, after everyone went to bed, I stood in the hallway looking at that framed photo of Sarah on the wall. It caught a little bit of moonlight, and I thought about the kind of home she wanted for our kids. One built on love, yes, but also on respect. I wasn't sure which one we still had. Still, I kept telling myself it would get better, that if I stayed calm, fair, and firm, they'd see I wasn't the enemy. But deep down, a seed had been planted. Not anger, just a quiet kind of frustration that grows roots when no one's looking. And once it starts, it doesn't stop. The next couple of months felt like living with strangers who happened to share your address. Jason and Chloe didn't just ignore me. They acted like I wasn't even there. If I walked into a room, they'd lower their voices or leave. If I spoke, they'd glance at each other like I'd interrupted something private. At first, I tried to keep the peace. I'd remind them about chores, ask how school was going, keep my tone even. But their responses were either silence or one-word answers said without looking up from their phones. Then it got worse. They'd deliberately wait until Tiffany got home to start conversations, or they'd walk right past me if I told them something needed doing. Once, I asked Jason to mow the lawn before the weekend. He shrugged and said, "I'll do it when Mom tells me." That one sentence told me everything. The house had split into sides, mine and theirs. One Saturday morning, I was outside cleaning the garage when I saw our neighbor, Mrs. Lawson, walking her dog. She was one of those older ladies who knew everyone on the block, always cheerful, always chatty. But that morning, she looked nervous. "Hey, Mark," she said, tugging on her dog's leash. "Do you have a minute?" "Sure," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. She hesitated. I just wanted to check in. Everything all right at home?" That question stopped me cold. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Why?" She glanced toward the house, then back at me. "It's probably nothing. I ran into your stepkids the other day, Jason and Chloe. They were talking to my grandson out front, and, they said a few things that worried me." "What kind of things?" She sighed. "They said you only let them eat at certain times, that you're really strict, and that you don't let them relax or have fun. Jason said you treat them like soldiers or something." I felt the heat rush to my face, not embarrassment, but anger. The kind that starts in your gut and spreads like fire. "Mrs. Lawson," I said, keeping my voice measured, "I appreciate you telling me, but that's complete nonsense." "I figured as much," she said quickly. "You've always seemed like a good dad. I just didn't want rumors going around." "Yeah," I said tightly. "Neither do I." She walked off, and I stood there for a minute, gripping that rag so hard it nearly tore. My stepkids were out there telling people I mistreated them, ruining my name in a neighborhood I'd worked years to build trust in. That wasn't going to slide. I marched inside. Jason and Chloe were in the living room watching TV, feet up on the coffee table like they owned the place. "Turn it off," I said. They ignored me. I stepped forward, hit the power button myself, and tossed the remote on the couch. "We're talking. Now." Jason rolled his eyes. "What now?" "Mrs. Lawson came by today," I said, staring him down. "She told me you've been telling people I starve you and treat you like prisoners." "Care to explain?" Chloe's eyes darted to Jason. "We didn't—" "Don't lie to me," I snapped. "I know exactly what you said. I've done nothing but put food on the table, pay for your phones, your clothes, your sports crap, and this is how you repay me? By spreading garbage about me to the neighbors?" Jason leaned back, smirking. "Maybe if you weren't such a control freak, people wouldn't believe it." That smirk was a mistake. I stepped closer until we were eye to eye. "Listen carefully," I said quietly. "This is your last warning. If you pull one more stupid stunt like this, you'd better be ready for the consequences. And trust me, you won't like them." He stared at me, but didn't speak. I could see his jaw working, like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the courage. Chloe whispered, "We were just joking." "Jokes end when they damage someone's reputation," I said. "And this one ends now." I turned and walked out before I said something I'd regret. That evening, Tiffany came into the garage where I was fixing a shelf. "I heard you yelled at the kids," she said. "I didn't yell," I said. "I confronted them. They told me you threatened them." I set the drill down and looked her in the eye. "Tiffany, they've been lying to people, telling the neighbors I mistreat them. That's not a misunderstanding. That's character assassination." She frowned. "They're teenagers, Mark. They exaggerate things. You can't take everything they say so seriously." "Exaggerate?" I said, my voice rising. "They told people I starved them. How much more exaggeration do you need before you call it what it is? Disrespect?" She crossed her arms, defensive. "They're still adjusting." "Stop saying that," I said sharply. "It's been almost a year. At some point, they stop adjusting and start choosing how to act. And right now, they're choosing to be disrespectful." Tiffany didn't respond. She just walked out, muttering something under her breath. That night, the silence in the house felt heavier than ever. Maya and Andrew stayed in their rooms. Jason and Chloe laughed quietly behind closed doors, probably feeling like they'd won something. I sat on the couch in the dark, staring at the blank TV screen, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. My own house didn't feel like mine anymore. And for the first time, I started wondering, maybe what this family needed wasn't more understanding. Maybe it needed consequences. That thought stayed with me for days. Quiet, sharp, and growing louder every time I walked past one of their closed doors. I'd catch myself gripping my coffee cup too tight, or stopping halfway through a sentence because I knew whatever I said, they'd twist it into something ugly. Then came the day it all fell apart. It was a Thursday afternoon. I got home early from work, expecting the usual chaos. Maya doing homework, Andrew building Lego towers, and Jason glued to his phone. Instead, I walked into silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that makes your stomach drop. I found Andrew in his room, sitting on the floor next to a pile of glass and water. His hands were shaking, and his eyes were red. "What happened, buddy?" I asked, crouching down. He pointed at the mess. "Jason, he broke it." His voice cracked. "He threw it." My stomach twisted. "He threw what?" Andrew picked up a small shard of glass from the carpet. I recognized it instantly. The snow globe. The one Sarah had given him before she passed. Inside it had been a tiny cabin and two little figures holding hands in the snow. Andrew had guarded that thing like treasure for years. "Where is he?" I asked. "Downstairs," Andrew whispered. He said it was stupid to cry over it. I stood up slowly, every muscle in my body tightening like a rope about to snap. Jason was on the couch in the living room, controller in hand, eyes glued to the TV, like nothing had happened. "Jason," I said, my voice low. He didn't even look up. "What?" "Turn it off." He sighed like I was ruining his evening and paused the game. "What now?" "You broke Andrew's snow globe." He shrugged. "Yeah, it fell." "It didn't fall," I said. "You threw it." "Maybe I did," he said, smirking. He was being a baby about it. "It's just a toy." I stepped closer. That snow globe was from his mother. You had no right to touch it. He leaned back on the couch, still smirking. "Grow up. You can buy another one. That's what you're good for, right?" For a second, everything went quiet in my head. I could hear the blood in my ears, the ticking of the wall clock, the faint sound of Chloe laughing upstairs. I took a deep breath. "Stand up," I said. "Why?" "Because I said so." He stood up, half laughing. "What, you gonna ground me? You can't even tell me what to do." I looked him dead in the eye. "You're right," I said calmly. "I'm not your dad." He froze. "And you're not my son," I continued. "So pack your things. Get ready to leave." His smirk faltered. "What?" "You heard me. You don't respect me. You don't respect this house. And you sure as hell don't get to destroy something that belonged to my late wife. You can live with your dad, since he's so much cooler." He laughed nervously, glancing toward the stairs. "You're not serious." "I've never been more serious." He looked at me for a long second, maybe waiting for me to yell or lose my temper. But I didn't. I just stood there, calm and solid, like the decision was already carved in stone. "You can't kick me out," he said finally. "I can," I said, "and I will." He scoffed. "Mom won't let you." "Then she can go too, if she thinks this is okay." He blinked, like he was realizing too late that this wasn't a game. He stormed upstairs, muttering under his breath. I didn't follow. I went straight to my home office and sat at my desk. My hands weren't shaking. My head was clear. I opened my laptop and pulled up our family accounts. Phone plan, streaming services, car insurance, mortgage, utilities, every single thing in my name. I started writing a list. Not out of anger, out of logic, out of clarity. Halfway through the list, Tiffany came home. I heard her keys drop in the hallway, then her voice calling, "Mark? What's going on?" "Jason said you threatened him." I didn't look up. "He broke Andrew's snow globe." Her tone softened, like she hadn't heard me right. "What?" "The one Sarah gave him," I said. "Smashed it." Then laughed about it. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Yeah," I said, still typing. "And then he told me I'm not his dad." "Mark, he's 16. I stopped typing and turned to face her. "And I'm 42. I've lived long enough to know when I'm being disrespected in my own home." She stared at me, stunned. "What are you doing?" "Making a list," I said. "Everything in this house that's in my name. Everything I pay for. If Jason doesn't think I'm a parent, fine. But that means I'm not responsible for him either." She shook her head slowly. "You can't just—" "I can," I said, cutting her off. "And I will." She didn't say anything else. Just stood there, arms crossed, trying to understand that I wasn't bluffing. When she finally walked away, I sat back in the chair and looked at the list again. It wasn't about revenge. It was about respect, about showing that every action comes with a cost. I folded the paper, placed it neatly on the desk, and turned off the light. "If I'm not their parent," I said quietly to the empty room, "then I'm not responsible for them either." The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. Didn't even bother with coffee at first. Just sat at the kitchen table staring at the list I'd written the night before. The decision had already been made. Now it was time to follow through. At 6 a.m., I started making calls. First, the phone provider. "Remove 2 lines," I said. "Jason and Chloe." The woman on the other end asked if I was sure. I said yes. Streaming services, passwords changed. Cable, canceled. By 9 a.m., my house was quieter than usual. Jason and Chloe's phones were cut off, and for the first time in months, I felt in control. I'd only shut off their lines. The rest of the house still had service. No need to punish everyone, just the ones who'd earned it. Tiffany didn't notice at first. She was at work, and Jason was still sleeping when I unplugged his game console and set it on the kitchen counter. By noon, the neighborhood grapevine was already buzzing. When I stepped outside to put the trash out, Mrs. Lawson from across the street waved me over. "I heard about what happened with Jason," she said carefully. "Don't let anyone make you feel bad, Mark. Everyone around here knows those kids have been trouble since day one." I nodded. "Appreciate that, Mrs. Lawson." She lowered her voice. "You're doing the right thing. My husband and I have seen it. Those kids talk back to you like you're some stranger. I don't know how you've stayed so patient." "Trying to set things straight now," I said simply. She gave a sympathetic smile. "About time." When I went back inside, Jason was standing in the living room, with his phone in his hand, face twisted in disbelief. "Why isn't my phone working?" he demanded. "Because it's not in my plan anymore," I said flatly. "Neither is Chloe's." He laughed once like I'd told a bad joke. "You can't do that." I just did. "You're insane," he said. "Mom's gonna lose it." "Maybe," I said, picking up the modem from the counter. "But at least she'll have a signal to call your dad." He followed me down the hallway, voice rising. "You can't just kick us out because you're mad." "I'm not mad," I said calmly. "I'm finished." He stormed off, slamming his door hard enough to rattle the frame. Tiffany came home that night just as I was making dinner for Maya and Andrew. The younger two were quiet but relaxed, Andrew humming softly, Maya setting the table. It felt like an actual family meal again. Tiffany dropped her purse on the counter. "What did you do?" "Handled the situation," I said without looking up. "Jason said you canceled their phones, Mark. That's not handling things. That's punishing them." "It's called consequences," I said. "They're kids." I finally turned to face her. "They're 16 and 14, not toddlers. They know exactly what they're doing." Her voice cracked with anger. "You're being harsh." I set down the spatula and took a step closer. "No, I'm being a parent. Something you haven't been doing lately." Her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" "You've been enabling them, Tiffany. Every time they cross a line, you make an excuse. Every time they disrespect me, you tell me to give it time. Well, time's up. They've pushed too far, and I'm not tolerating it anymore." Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't stop. "You've spoiled them, and you've let them poison this house. I won't let them turn Maya and Andrew into the same kind of entitled kids. If that means this relationship ends, then so be it." She went quiet, staring at me like she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. Then she whispered, "You're serious. Dead serious." And she turned away, muttering, "I can't even talk to you right now," and disappeared into the bedroom. I let her go. There was nothing left to say. The next morning, I packed Jason and Chloe's things. Clothes, shoes, their electronics, whatever they had in shared spaces. I folded everything neatly into boxes and set them by the front door. Then I called a locksmith. When the man arrived, I stood outside while he worked, watching the new locks go in one by one. It felt final, like closing a chapter I hadn't realized was poisoning the story. As he handed me the new keys, he said, "Rough week, huh?" "You could say that." He nodded, professional but kind. "Sometimes you gotta draw the line." "Yeah," I said quietly. "Sometimes you do." When Tiffany came home that afternoon, she couldn't get the door open. I opened it for her, standing in the frame. "What is this?" she asked, panic in her eyes. "I changed the locks," I said. "Jason and Chloe's things are packed. You can call David or take them yourself. Either way, they're not coming back inside until they learn some respect." Her mouth fell open. "Mark, you can't." "I can," I said, steady as stone. And I did. David showed up an hour later. He looked uncomfortable the second he stepped out of his car. "Tiffany called me, said it's bad." "It's bad because your son broke something that belonged to my dead wife and laughed about it," I said. David sighed. "He told me. Said he didn't mean it." "He meant it," I said. "And he's gonna live with it." He rubbed the back of his neck. "This seems extreme." I met his eyes. "If your son told you you weren't his parent, that he didn't have to listen to you, and that your kids didn't matter, what would you do?" David looked down. "Probably the same thing." "Then we're good." Jason and Chloe came out, faces pale, carrying their boxes. They didn't say a word. Jason avoided my eyes. Chloe sniffled quietly. As they got into David's car, Jason hesitated. "Is this really it?" This is what happens when you burn through every chance you were given, I said. He nodded once and got in. Tiffany didn't speak while they drove away. She just stood there on the porch, arms crossed, tears streaking her cheeks. I handed Tiffany a new key. Jason and Chloe would not get copies. When the taillights disappeared, I went back inside. The house was silent. No yelling, no slammed doors, no tension humming under every word. I sat down at the kitchen table, the same spot where I'd made my list, and let the quiet fill the room. It wasn't peace exactly, but it was something close. Heartbroken, yes, but resolved. The next morning, the house felt like it was holding its breath. No music blaring from Jason's room, no Chloe humming in front of the mirror, just silence, and the faint sound of Maya and Andrew whispering in the kitchen. I poured myself some coffee and sat down. They froze when I entered, like they'd been caught doing something wrong. "You two okay?" I asked. Maya looked at Andrew first, then said, "It's just quiet." "Good or bad quiet?" I asked. She hesitated. "Good." Andrew fidgeted with his spoon. "I kinda like it, Dad. Nobody's yelling or calling names anymore." That one hit harder than I expected. I realized how long my kids had been walking on eggshells in their own home. "You don't have to feel bad about that," I said. "It's okay to breathe again." They both nodded, and for the first time in months, breakfast didn't feel like a minefield. By afternoon, the quiet turned into reflection. Tiffany hadn't said more than a few words since last night. She stayed in the bedroom most of the morning, then finally came out, eyes red from crying. "We need to talk," she said. "Yeah," I said, setting down my mug. She sat across from me at the table, hands clasped. "I don't even know who you are right now, Mark. You've been cold, hard. I know Jason messed up, but throwing them out? They're still kids." And I took a slow breath. "They're old enough to know right from wrong. You know that." "They're hurt," she said. "And so are mine," I said evenly. "Do you even realize what they've been through these past months? Jason calling me names, Chloe lying to neighbors, both of them turning my own kids against me? They needed to learn there are limits." Tiffany rubbed her forehead. After the divorce, I was scared. I didn't want to lose them again, so I let things slide. "And by doing that," I said quietly, "you almost lost this family too." Her eyes welled again, but this time there was understanding behind it. "Maybe you're right," she whispered. We didn't say much after that. She went upstairs. I stayed at the table, staring out the window, watching the light shift across the yard. That evening, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize until I opened the message. "Hey, this is Jason. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said what I said. About the snow globe. About you." I read it twice, then 3 times. The kid who told me I wasn't his dad was now the one reaching out first. I didn't reply. Not yet. I wanted it to mean something when I did. 2 days later, David stopped by. He pulled into the driveway. When he stepped out, he looked different. Tired, but calm. "Got a minute?" he asked. "Sure," I said, meeting him halfway down the driveway. He leaned against his car. I didn't come to argue. I just wanted to say, they're starting to get it. Jason's been quiet. Real quiet. He even helped me clean the garage yesterday without being asked. "That's a first," I said dryly. David chuckled. "Yeah. He told me he screwed up bad. Said you were right about respect." Chloe cried for a while. She misses her mom and Maya. I crossed my arms. I didn't want it to come to this, but they needed a line drawn. He nodded. "You did what I couldn't. I kept trying to be their buddy after the divorce. I think they needed someone to be their wall, not their friend. That stuck with me." "You're a good dad, David," I said. "They'll come around." He extended his hand. "So are you, Mark." We shook. No hostility between us anymore. Just mutual understanding. 2 men trying to hold broken families together the only way we knew how. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table again, the same spot where all this started. On the counter, Andrew's broken snow globe base was still there. The glass long gone, but the little cabin inside still intact. I picked it up and turned it over in my hands. The next morning, Tiffany came down early. She saw the snow globe on the table and stopped. "You fixed it," I nodded. "It's not what it was, but it's standing." She looked at me, eyes full of exhaustion and guilt. "Mark," she said quietly, "I'm sorry for letting it get this bad. I was scared to lose my kids again after the divorce. I thought being soft would keep them close, but all it did was make them lose respect, for me and for you." I put a hand on hers. "Then let's start over. Together this time." For the first time in months, she smiled. A real one. Real. We didn't know what came next, but at least now we were finally on the same side. A week later, Tiffany sat across from me at the kitchen table, a notebook open between us. For once, we weren't arguing. We were planning. They want to come home, she said quietly. David called again. He said Jason's been asking every day. I nodded. If they come back, it's not going to be the same as before. This time, there are rules, and everyone follows them. No exceptions. She agreed. I know. What kind of rules are we talking about? I leaned forward. Rule number 1. Respect every adult in this house. That means no attitude, no talking back, and no ignoring what I say just because it doesn't come from you. Tiffany nodded slowly, writing it down. And the second? Jason gets a part-time job, I said. He's 16. He needs to learn what responsibility actually feels like. He wants a phone. Fine, he can pay for it. He wants independence. He can earn it. She hesitated for a second, but then nodded. That's fair. We finalized everything before calling David. When I explained the rules, he didn't argue. It's about time, he said. They'll agree. That Saturday, his car pulled into the driveway. I stood by the front door, hands in my pockets, trying to read Jason and Chloe's faces through the window. Both looked nervous. Jason's head was down. Chloe clutched her backpack like it was a shield. When they stepped inside, the air was thick with awkwardness. Andrew and Maya peeked from the hallway, curious but cautious. Tiffany spoke first. Before anything else, we need to talk about how things are going to be from now on. Jason nodded. Okay. I motioned for them to sit. Here's the deal, I said evenly. You don't have to call me Dad. You don't have to pretend we're best friends. But you will respect me. You'll respect this house, your mom, and each other. No more lies, no more disrespect. Understood? They both nodded. And Jason, I continued, you're getting a part-time job. I don't care if it's bagging groceries or sweeping floors, but you're going to learn what it means to earn something. He looked up at me, surprised but not angry. Okay, he said quietly. I can do that. Good, I said. Then we'll start over. The first few days were awkward, but calmer. Jason kept to himself mostly, but there was no attitude. Chloe helped Tiffany with dinner without being asked. Even Maya and Andrew seemed relieved that things didn't explode the second they walked in the room. A week later, Jason came home from his first shift at a local grocery store. He looked exhausted but proud. I bagged groceries for 4 hours, he said. Didn't realize how hard it was standing that long. Welcome to real life, I said, hiding a grin. Over the next few weeks, small changes started stacking up. Jason started asking if we needed anything before heading to work. Chloe offered to help Maya with homework. Andrew laughed more. Even Tiffany seemed lighter, like she'd been holding her breath for months and finally exhaled. One evening, I was fixing a shelf in the garage when Jason came in. He leaned against the doorframe, hands in his pockets. Hey, he said awkwardly. Hey, I said, not looking up. How's work? Not bad. Manager said I'm doing good. Good to hear. He was quiet for a moment, then said, I wanted to say thanks. For what? For not giving up on us. I was a jerk. I said things I didn't mean. You didn't have to take us back. I looked at him then. You earned your way back, I said simply. Just keep doing the right thing. He nodded. I will. That night, I walked through the house and realized how different it felt. There was laughter again, not tension. The kitchen wasn't silent during dinner. Everyone talked, even joked. The cracks were still there. You could feel them sometimes. But they were healing. Slowly. Honestly. Sometimes being the bad guy for a while is the only way to save a family. I didn't just win back respect. I earned a family. And this time, it feels real. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.